Hey guys, welcome to episode 24 of the Melee Stats podcast, featuring me, your host, Edwin Budding.
Chroma, SoCal, TO, commentator, raconteur. You know, you've seen me.
St. Nicholas, commentator, and know-it-all, and controversy.
And Tafo, signer of speedrunners for CLG.
So,
That's great.
You guys obviously know who Tafo is, so we can just head into our first topic, which is going to be about the Roast of Hugo, which happened last weekend. But before we talk about the tournament itself, let's talk about its namesake, the Roast of Hugo. So I want to start off this discussion by talking about each roast individually and sort of gathering our thoughts on them. So let's start with Vish's roast. I thought it was pretty good. It was just good enough to set the tone of the night, but not good enough to detract from everyone else. Pretty much fit his host role perfectly well. Although I didn't find the jokes too memorable.
I tuned in like after I think Ludwig had already gone, so I'll admit that I don't have a lot of like firsthand experience with Vish's segment or Ludwig's for that matter. However, thought he was well dressed.
Yeah, he was.
Dude, was his segment that unmemorable? Does no one else have any thoughts on this?
I mean, I think his main responsibility was being a host, right? And I think he did a really good job. I mean, I think transitions, because of the fact that you don't really hear the script. Hello?
Oh.
Well, because you don't hear the script, like him being able to improv transitions and work seamlessly with people, like I thought was really well done.
Were there any jokes that particularly stood out to you, like either during the event or before?
I think his impersonation of me was actually pretty good.
I liked his over the hill joke about BTS, just given the nature of the event, taking a shot at the person or the group hosting, right?
Oh.
Well, there goes Chroma.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't know. He set everyone else up, which I think, yeah, like you're saying, kind of fit in with this role. I guess unless we have any other words to say about Vish, we can move on to Ludwig's roast, which I think sort of if Vish set the tone of the night, like Ludwig was the real, like he kind of embodies the whole roast nature of like taking wild swings and having them either miss or just like land on track. So what do you guys think about what do you think was his worst moment of the night? And then why don't we talk about what his best was after that?
Are we talking Ludwig's best and worst or everyone's best and worst?
No, Ludwig's.
Okay. Just to add to Vish's, Vish, we had to write a lot more PG jokes specifically because Vish is the Nintendo representative. Vish's choice of which dick joist to use, very interesting because we knew he was extremely judicious with which one he picked. And I didn't expect it to hit, and it did. Ludwig was tricky because I think they had to set up some counter roast stuff. I thought his worst moment was probably so.
Yeah, I
thought instantly as he started and hit us with the mango joke. I think that was a good one.
You're talking about the mango, the alcoholism one?
Oh no.
I think Chroma's dead. Chroma's a dead man, guys.
It's okay. It happens.
Oh, this is so sad.
Nikki, do you have any thought? I thought.
Do I have any thoughts? Yeah. A lot of people told me that the HBox joke was a risk. I don't even really think it was, but I wonder if that's because I like live in the bubble of just like, you know, everybody being how do I phrase this? I live in the bubble of everyone already having made those jokes already, and so when he dropped it, like, okay, cool to do that in like a semi-public way, but and like I thought, it was a well-worded one. Rule of 3 is always fun. But yeah, I mean, I thought it was really a win-win thing. I thought the posting of the DM was also like a hilarious callback to the whole Hungry Box posting Ninja's DMs thing. So yeah, all in all, great joking, great jokes, big fan.
Yeah, I think that, I mean, he was sort of saying something that everybody thought, but never spoke out loud, which seems like a pretty like good use for comedy, right? Like addressing the elephant in the room. And I think he did it in a way that was like funny for everyone involved. Like he could have very easily made it tasteless or like gone into more like inappropriate territory, but he was pretty simple with it.
Yeah, no, I think he kept it lighthearted and brief enough this was something that I talked a lot about with people after viewing the roast, was like it was one of the few jokes of the night that like made fun of someone outside of the room but didn't dwell on it, and I think it really benefited from just being a short, sweet little brief outside wink reference, and then going right back into the roast.
I also thought that I think his joke about Hugs dating the 19-year-old was pretty funny, because again, like this, we talked about this a little before the podcast, but like the individual centric jokes I think are really strong in particular, because they stand out more over time. They age well.
Yeah, Practical Task had this really, really good comment. I don't remember if he made it publicly or not, that it was like, if the joke didn't benefit from you having the context of knowing the individual, then like it wasn't that good of a joke. And I completely agree. Even though like the Comedy Central roast aesthetic that I think BTS was trying to go for was like followed through very well, and like that does involve a lot of like more general jokes. I still think the roast really shone when it got to make those like nerdy specific jokes you would only get because you browse so and so's Twitter or you like are familiar with their life. And like for an event that's like essentially a glorified SoCal regional, I mean, I think that's what makes the most sense for what's going to get the most laughs.
Well, I mean, how do you balance like the whole in-joke thing among people in the scene that you know versus something that appeals to a broader audience? Like I thought the slime joke that he had and bringing the figurine of like a very short slime. I know that's a running gag those two have between Ludwig being tall and slime being shorter than him.
Yeah,
I didn't know what the reception was like for that, but I just remember
loved it. I loved it because I think like community events like this, I feel like the broadcasting is like a secondary benefit to doing an event like this. I feel like the whole point is that it's supposed to entertain the people there who are like in on the joke and who are enjoying the callbacks. Sorry, I have to sneeze. Chroma's offline. Nicole has to sneeze. It's all. What does this podcast come to? But yeah, no. If anything, I was like almost like angry. I was like almost offended, like when they weren't going as specific as they could be, and I was really frustrated by it. And I remember like talking to people about it afterwards, because I was just like, this is so like, like such and such joke was like so cheap because it was too, abstract or whatever. Now I'm less mad because I understand that, smashers are not comedians, and I don't expect people to just write amazing jokes right out the gate. But still,
Yeah, I mean, I think it's also difficult when Ludwig, who's a relative newcomer to the scene, he has to write jokes about people that he's gaining familiarity with in such a short period of time that they were doing it with him too. Like I know and this is an amazing transition into the next roaster, Tafo. Tafo did not roast Ludwig throughout the his set. So I want to ask you, Tafo, genius. was this an intentional choice on your part, or did you just brain fart?
No, he was never in the script, because it's like, I mean, if you guys are gonna go on the concept of like punching up and punching down, like I felt like that would be like a punching.
Why does this happen to me? Okay. Discord doesn't like working when St. Nick's on the show.
I didn't know anything about him. Like, I just didn't want to like even acknowledge him in the roast.
Well, what was like what was your approach in going into the roast and knowing what other people would bring to the table and how you wanted to bring your own brand of humor to that?
Well, I mean, the only thing I really did know was like people were probably going to go for like kind of the low-hanging fruit, and that's like the one thing I specifically wanted to avoid. But like everything else, like I didn't hear the Hungry Box joke until I was there. Like I didn't know what the script was. And so like everything was still brand new to me. And I had some ideas. Like I knew people were probably going to make fun of Chillin's weight. So I wanted to avoid that.
Yeah.
Was there any joke that you thought that landed more than what you thought, or opposite on your end?
I mean, it was totally like a mystery because I didn't know how Smash audiences would take it before, like, because like on one end, like we had people that are going to be like a lot more sensitive about stuff, and that's fine. So like I thought like maybe there's a universe where like none of this lands, and like I just am seeing like a giant asshole, even though it's like a roast. You know how when we go into like Twitter conversations, or like let's say like Johnny and like Hugs are trash talking each other on like Twitter. And like someone who doesn't know like their relationship goes like, wow, Johnny's a giant asshole. And then like I kind of on the back of my mind was a little bit worried. Like it's like, well, like Tafo's just this giant asshole, like, and like I would be like weaponized against. So that was like my like big worry.
Tafo, I feel like people, that's an interesting worry for you to have, just because like I feel like your role in the roast, your set at least came off to me as like the most like you were like playing a role instead of like that you genuinely believed this about any of your friends. When you dropped the whole, because I think you did the joke about like Hugo being like a diseased man or something, and I was just like,
Yeah, that's my
absolutely
favorite
no
one.
way that I was like, there's no way that he believes that at all. And also, I was just
that was my favorite joke in a set.
Really? That was like
Yeah.
that was honestly like that was a big neutral, if not negative, for me. I was just like,
Yeah.
What about
know what it
Hugo
was.
gives off a diseased vibe?
Well, I mean, I think the worry, like you see this in other esports where like, you know, you make fun of their favorite player and then you get the stands like just like shitting on the guy that like made fun of them. So like I guess the retaliation would be like, well, ha ha ha, at least Hugo has slept around, like you look like a virgin or something. You know, like I think all of our big worries was like this would be like weaponized and like people would justify like being shitty towards people because we said it on stream.
Mm-hmm.
Like, so I think that's like the big worry. And so like I think knowing what I knew now, like I would have made a lot more personal jabs at people. And I think that's like the one thing I would have done differently. But the beginning I had so much adrenaline and like I talked way too fast. So a lot of people like I knew like I came off as very nervous, but I just had so much adrenaline and like I was so excited that like I forgot to breathe, and so like I was talking like a madman more than like letting it flow.
That's really funny. But like a mood, but that's really funny.
I thought one of the most underrated jokes of your set was every one of Hug's dates ending with a hug and getting 86. I was surprised that a lot of people got that because I
don't know what it means to get 86. I'm still not entirely sure.
86. So that was.
It's a food term for like if you don't like your dish, and let's say you bring it back to the waiter, then that means that that dish got 86'd.
That's I mean that's a great joke for Hugh for Mr. Hugh. That's cool, great.
It's also sometimes used to refer to people getting kicked out of.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah, I liked that one. I also liked Hugo's crouch canceling a neutral start joke.
I like the crouch
Or
cancel
Tafo's-
in the corner of the airport. That was a pretty individual.
That was the one I was the most worried about from our side. That was going to be too much.
Did you think it would be too much because of how people would keep repeating that to him, or just because it would be hurtful to Hugo?
No, I thought that one was maybe too far because it did happen a little bit. Whereas the Hugo should get tested clearly is not happened. But I thought Tafo delivered that one very.
I think well, so I don't know if you guys know like Romeo. Like if you ever hang out with like Romeo, Mango, Lucky, Alex, and Hugo, like pretty much like that clique of like Norwalk, like they rag on each other so hard that like I knew that would be okay. Like in terms of like a personal level thing, like you should see some of the stuff that like Alex and Hugo say to, or even Dunk say to Hugo in person about things that have actually happened.
Hugo's mom would have caught about 40 minutes of material if it were the Norlock
Yeah,
roast.
I've heard stories about that.
They also would have beaten Hugo physically, I think.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
it's so weird with that stuff because it's personal comfort between friends. So for an
Yeah.
outsider, like it may not look okay, like for optics for people to see like racially suggestive jokes and everything, but judging by like their relationship, that's on terms between them. Like no one can really tell them what's okay versus what's not.
And then the rest of the day is Dunk, Vish, myself, and Chillin. Like we're all like really cool with each other, and like they know how to take a joke and they know how to like ride the punches, which is why I like them so much, and that's why I respect Hugo. Like he's gonna dish out a lot, and he does make himself a target, but like. Have you ever had those people that like you mess around with and then finally like they're a target of a joke and they're like super sensitive about it, and then it's like, okay, like I guess you can make fun of me all the time, but when I make fun of you, like you get super sensitive and butthurt over it. Like
Yeah.
That was why we weren't going to do the roast of my case,
Mhm.
for example.
Oh, the
He was the
rest
first.
of my
He was the first guy
case.
that he was actually the first guy I thought of because I remember that he's typically like good at taking like.
He's better
jokes
at it now by a
when
lot.
it reaches like a boiling point or whatever.
I mean, like, so like, you know, like HBox gets thrown around and like I don't know him super well. Like I've had conversations with him, but like my gut tells me like if we roasted HBox, like is he gonna take it too personally? Whereas like someone like
remember the set he played with Brandon, and it got really dark.
Yeah, they're like that still is not like that's very easily findable for people if you
Ooh,
want.
yeah, I forgot about that.
The-
Holy moly.
HBox and Brandon in the exhibition or whatever.
Yeah, that's a bad time.
Yeah, that's a dark set.
I mean 2013, right? Like
That's
I'm
true.
not excusing the language or whatever or the jokes made, but like that it just was acceptable back then. Not that it should have been, but just that's
actually no, everybody when the what's that the police kind of comments came up with like because I'm white, like
With George
even
Zimmerman.
people back then were like yikes.
Oh, really? It was
Yeah.
because I like just
When
joined the scene when that
HBox
happened.
when HBox did that,
Okay.
He did live stream it. He watched Ludwig's set. He heard the joke, and he seems to have taken it well. And he did actually message Ludwig afterwards. I did see the video. I saw it on his phone.
I talked about that while you were off. While your internet was off just a little bit. I thought that the DM callback was good. I thought it was very, very funny. I think it's the best way it could have ended for everyone.
And I feel like everybody on the couch like had very distinguishable things that you could roast on, like at multiple. Like you have the surface level jokes, but then like you have like deeper jokes. So like I mean, I think there were like other people that Hugo had that would have been great, but like I feel like we had a pretty good dynamic going. And I think at the end of the day, like everybody was having fun, and I think that's like what made it fun for me. Like the moment somebody's not having fun, or it's like, oh, like somebody's like taking this like too personally or taking it too far, then I feel like that's when like a roast like falls apart.
Yeah, it's interesting because like when I was watching it, I was wondering, I was like, why did they choose Hugo specifically? And then, or I don't know, I'm like that I should really just say hugs, but I was like, why did they choose him specifically? But then he gets up and he does his whole roast back of everyone, and I was like, oh, this guy can really dish it out as well as take it, and like then that totally made sense to me. But
he's
I
also
did
been in the
feel
scene
like
for so long, right? Like
what?
He's been in the scene for so long and been the target of those like
that. Yeah, that's true. But what surprised me is that like, you know, we talk about like, oh, like it's good that like people brought specific jokes to the table, and you know, things that you know made only made sense when like it was applied to the specific person and everyone was unique and all that. I still feel like there weren't nearly as many. Like the man has a Twitter full of very, very interesting tweets that could all be made fun of for so many different reasons. No one leapt on that, I feel like, nearly as hard as they could have. And that was wildly disappointing for me, of course, amongst others.
Well, that's, I think, as far as like individual and personal based jokes about hugs goes, I thought Dunk's set had Dunk and Chillin were both kind of like this, but I was impressed by Dunk's actual jokes, but I thought his presentation was a little like all over the place.
Yeah.
I mean,
didn't
that's
really
because
follow
he
the
lost
details.
his script.
Yeah. Mhm.
Yeah, and that's really unfortunate. Don't get me wrong.
What's kind of ironic is if Hugo called that out as like Dunk being a dumbass, that would have been so meta.
Yeah. I love the "who the fuck is Hugo" joke near the end because it was a good callback to the story that Vish told earlier. Well, so I don't know. I thought when I first saw Dunk set, I thought he kind of bombed because his delivery was all over the place. But for whatever reason, just watching it again, I thought it was infinitely funnier. But maybe it's because like the nerves of I don't want to say nerves of watching it for the first time, but like the expectation of how he was going to perform is gone when I was.
That one hit the best. I was really optimistic about his.
Oh,
No, Chroma.
I was really optimistic about Chroma being able to share his point, but that didn't happen.
Maybe we should. Can we guess what his point was?
I was really optimistic about. I was just going to say, I get what you mean by having nerves on behalf of the other person. Secondhand embarrassment is one of the realest things I can possibly imagine.
You know what? I think I know where he was going. I think he was talking about the last joke about Hugs going to Evo 2013 with like Mango and Dunk,
Mm-hmm.
and I think the delivery. I remember Chroma was talking about this before. He thought the delivery of that line was a lot worse than the content itself. He thought the content itself was like really funny on the first read. Tafo, was there anything like that in your set that you thought would get a lot more like laughs than it ended up doing, or vice versa?
I think in the beginning, like I could have executed the stool joke a little bit better. Like where I brought a stool and I was like, "Hey Hugo, this could like be of use for you."
All right, everything good, Chroma?
No, it's not good.
Oh,
What's
no.
going on?
Sounds like he's trapped
You hear
in
me
a
at all or no?
wall.
All right. Well, I guess that leaves Chillin and Hugs left. We talked about this before the show, but Chillin I thought was great throughout the whole night. In fact, I think the only things that I would really like hold against him were the low-hanging age jokes. And I feel like that was kind of done with the self-aware, like he knows that they're going to get both laughter and groans in the audience. And the rap itself, I thought was all right. I like the line of dating with daddy, dating with Gramps. I thought that was pretty killer.
Chillin sure does rap. That's literally all I have to say about it. Like,
Nothing
there you
else
have
stood out. I thought the joke about him losing to Lud at Smash the Record and talking about the event not coming back the next year and attributing that to Ludwig. It's like not extreme enough to be like extreme, like super offensive, but I thought it was just like a ridiculous connection between the two events.
Yeah, I think it was. I actually do want to talk about that just a little bit. The whole jump from like no one knows who Ludwig is to Ludwig is an extremist who like prevents cancer fundraising and just hates people who aren't white. Honestly, like I thought it was pretty funny. Like I don't have a problem with it at all. But I did think it said a lot about how little people knew about him, and it was interesting to watch where people went with, oh, this boring white guy is a blank slate. Where do we take this?
Yeah, and I don't know if that like it was it's hard to tell whether that was a plus in the night, like of their collective confusion of what to do with them versus or a negative in the sense that like people just didn't know what to expect in the first place.
Yeah.
But I think that's why like during his set he had to be more extreme so he would stand out, right?
That was it. He also had to give people material to work off of. I thought that they could have hit some of the deep cuts. I was surprised nobody made fun of Ludwig for the parodies. Thought that was coming. There was a lot they could have done. I liked the one where they were going to call him a scar flavored LaCroix.
Yeah, I remember hearing about that one.
That's
I also thought they did a lot of the Slime's friend type jokes, but like he's the producer for the read, so they could have easily done. They they could have riffed on something about like him also like being subservient to Scar and Toph or whatever as well.
He's also
And not
like a
just
Twitch
slime.
streamer with a pretty successful base of viewers. And that could have been touched on.
They tried with the button mashing, but I think that Vish joke kind of like didn't really hit.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean, the one thing I was gonna do, which I thought was gonna be kind of weird, I didn't know how to push the lines, was gonna make like a funny like masturbation joke,
With Mash. Okay.
like the way he's like,
Yeah.
Wish you-
Listen, I've been told by sources who shall remain anonymous that the button mashing videos that Ludwig has put out there are quote unquote clitoris thirst traps, and you can interpret that however which way you wish. But I've been told some people have said that.
so yeah. I mean, I think it's like I'm still like navigating like what is kosher.
And so what was not that? Never mind. Never. I can't get like that image out of my mind. The delivery also. Oh my god. I don't know. I was surprised no one or maybe it didn't stand out in my mind, but no one made a hotels.com joke. The fact that Ludwig literally got that like commercial.
That was too fresh, I think. I think that was too fresh and maybe not enough people knew about it for it to be like a funny callback. Although I wonder how many people in that crowd knew about it.
Yeah, well, it goes back to what we were talking about with the like what is the in humor in the audience versus like
the
what
intended audience was unclear. Oh.
Yeah, that's also true. Although I have to make a comment, the audience was phenomenal. Like the whole, they were into it, and I think like that was like awesome to work with. Like they had energy, and I think everybody like fed off of it. Like imagine having like an awful crowd for like a comedy show.
Would you do it again next year if they did another event?
I wouldn't do it for different reasons. I think I had like a different I had an enjoyable experience, but like it's kind of like I would like other people to have a chance.
That's fair. Yeah.
It better be somebody good. It's got to be somebody good to roast.
When's an East Coast event like this happening? That's what I want to know. I think we
Never.
do.
You guys get the script. You guys get the script and Overlords of Orlando. That's what you got.
So mad. Why would I even want to go to Overlords of Orlando?
Hey, we super nebulous is pretty. Super Nebulous is pretty cool, and it happened. Don't hate
These
on
events don't get any traction. That's my point. They Shine 2018 is the only thing that Beyond the Summit has streamed so far on the East Coast. It's absurd. The West Coast elitism and Melee.
Dude, prior to Summit, we literally had nothing on the West Coast. Like we had.
Yeah, I mean, like you're right.
We had Paragon, and then like that's it.
Yeah.
I was gonna bring up Genesis, but I remember Genesis 3 came after Summit.
We had a rather like dead like. If you look, like we had SSS, which I'm like really thankful for, but we had a lot of events that like we don't have as many events as people think we do.
Yeah, it was like what press start. I'm not yelling. Like, do those really count as? Because those weren't like annual things. Just
yeah. So like a lot of people like. Side tangent. I would love to have more events on the East Coast. I think we're blessed that Summit, like people like Hotbid like Melee, and they got into Melee. But we were in a desert of like majors, like, and we'd rely on Blur to get something done, but that didn't happen.
And really heard a lot. All those
Chroma died.
Oh, Chroma.
Oh no.
Big no.
Rest in peace, Kings of Cali. I'm still waiting for Kings of Cali 5 to happen someday.
Oh yeah. The other joke I had, and I didn't know if it was too insider, which I like ended up nixing, was I was like, if I ever had a kid that was out of line, like I would go to see Hugo and get him straight, because if he can set his teeth straight, then he can set anybody straight.
Oh.
That's an inside baseball joke, but I mean, it's good if you have any knowledge of Hugo's dental records.
You just look at his the documentary.
Oh. I wasn't even looking at his chompers.
Information, and
That's
it said
like
it was
a
stolen by
throwback.
someone in Canoga Park, which is near where Hugo lived at the time. And
Sorry, what stolen? What was stolen from Canoga Park? What?
no, my credit card information was stolen. Somebody was using it near Canoga Park right after I sent Hugo the admissal line.
Oh, sure, interesting.
What'd you guys think of Hugo's like response at the end? I thought it was the best of the night. And, like,
Solid.
I kind of expected it to be like, even with the misses, they're kind of like inevitable based on what he was going for.
You could really tell he polished the delivery, and I don't say that as like making fun. Oh, like Hugo like try hard studied. I think it really showed that he really thought about it a lot, like the jokes and the execution and like how to deliver.
Did he surprise you with any of them?
No.
As in like you knew what they were heading into it, or you weren't surprised by the like quality or what he was.
I mean,
going
he
for?
went to my birthday party like the week before and asked me like, "Is this joke okay?" So like the only joke I kind of knew was the Vicky joke, where he was talking about like my looks, and kind of like so I already knew what that one was.
That was a great joke. That was
pretty good. You got
that was
roasted.
just killer.
Yeah, I mean, I think it was like really good. I thought it was really well executed. Like I thought it hit multiple birds with one stone. Like making fun of the Crimson Blur, like as a jab too, was like really funny. I thought I had to give him props. Like he gets my respect.
Also, yeah, go on.
He got me good. That Hugo Gonzalez.
I also liked his. So even though I'm typically not that crazy about fat jokes, I thought for whatever reason, I thought the mentioning of Chillin dude like being overweight and then losing all the weight and just the way he delivered the talk about the comeback line, I thought was pretty funny because at least like his delivery of it and like the way he positioned it was so different than what everyone else was saying. Like I thought that was
excited.
Yeah, go on.
He was excited to leave us hanging and then drop it.
Yeah, exactly. Like the Chillin dude ate too much joke. Like anyone can say that, but his memory of like Chillin's history as a player, I think, is what shined. Like that's the.
God damn it! All right, guys, it should just reload when we get back.
Actually, yeah, for as much as people talked about the Smash Sisters joke, like being offensive, I thought the one about Dunk's fiance was like really overboard. Was Dunk like okay? Did Dunk expect that, or did he know that was happening, or no?
I like that one. I thought there were a lot of things that got kind of exposed about who decided to use those jokes by the nature of those jokes, and I think I would have been very happy if they just didn't exist.
Yeah, I mean it happens. Jokes bomb, but I thought despite some of it, I thought he was like the star of the night. I kind of thought it might be like that heading into it. So props to Hugo for getting roasted and firing back on all cylinders.
Yeah, I will say my quick piece about the Smash Sisters joke. Having organized some Smash Sisters events myself, it's it was just kind of boring. It's just like, okay, cool. And it was another example, I think, of like a joke that made fun of somebody outside of the room, and then he lingered too long on it by being like, "Oh, I shouldn't have said that," and like, whatever, dude. Like, who cares? Just make your joke and go. Just take the L. So yeah, I don't know. I'm excited to put that down as yet another great Smash Sisters testimonial. It'll be in my Hall of Fame along with Why Are There No Smash Brothers? And I'll just put it up on my little shelf and move on.
No Smash Brothers events about Super Smash Brothers.
Yeah, dude. Yeah, I'm gonna start. Next one I run, I'm gonna have like a separate sign-up sheet. I'm gonna print it out, put it on a little clipboard, and it'll say like Smash Brothers, so the boys can play too, and they can like come up and do some sign-ups, or it'll be like 2 setups just for men, and I hope they'll really benefit from that and get to grow as players.
I thought another good one he said was the before the line about Dunk's fiance, the mentioning about Dunk's like privilege and status of having things like bot player
So
take.
good.
It was good, but that was hard to listen to. Like,
It was so hard, but
it was a good
like,
joke.
But it was specific. It took him the task. It was about something that he could change. Like that was kind of my beef, I think, with a lot of the jokes made in this roast that were like more general, is that they were about things that people couldn't help or couldn't change. And it's like, I don't know. It's like to take your boy to task is just so ferocious. I was a big fan.
What'd you guys think of the PPMD left nut testosterone reference? Is that over the line, or is that fair game?
I don't know. People know PPMD better than I do. Is it a joke he would care about? I literally have no idea.
I'm not sure. Maybe I'll ask him.
Shoutouts to PP.
Yeah, shoutouts.
Chroma, what?
I think he said shoutouts to PP.
I feel like he said something before that. I wasn't sure.
All right, I think that just about covers the roast. Unless there's anything else you guys want to say, why don't we just skip ahead to grand finals and talk about S2J molly-whopping Zain for another edition of Captain Falcon defeats Zain at a tournament.
Wait, I don't want to skip ahead to that because I thought that Fiction versus Santiago was a great set. Yeah,
I enjoyed it.
Wish it hadn't just been best of 3. Right? It was best of 3?
It was not. It was the best of 5.
Best of 5.
The lucky one was
me?
the best of 3, which I did not know and was very confusing to me.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we've made a lot of things best of 3 to fit within time constraints, right?
Yeah, it had to happen.
That's fair. Either way, Santi Fiction set. Real good. Maybe
It was definitely fun. It was a fun time. I liked it. A lot of tech chase missing from Lucky and Fiction.
It's now another event where we go kind of scratch our heads at the end of the year and go like, why is Fiction or why is Santi even on the SSBM rank? And we're going to point to this event.
Yeah, it's, he shows up, he does good, plays some melee. I think it's really funny that Santi is 12 and Fiction was 11, and Fiction kind of rightfully a little bit was like, why am I 11? But why is Santi 12? No, not at all. And it's melee stats, so I have to say Fiction's really good results happen kind of after the period, and at the end of it, he'll clearly go up.
Mm-hmm.
His wins against Army and Army's placement now matter more. Santi will probably not be super active, but we love to see him, and it'll be a good time once he whoops a lot of people again.
Yeah, Santi, like relative to his perceived skill level, like his records over the last year and a half on like the Fastfallers in SoCal, like especially like Lucky also have been like
everyone
a lot,
in SoCal.
Yeah, like a lot better than you would normally think.
I don't think he's lost to Lucky in a cool minute. I think if he played, I wish he played Westballz again because he really saw West.
No.
Well, Pat's really want to see that.
Wait. Did you say Santi at Pat's House 3? Is that what you said?
I said West was not playing good at Pat's House 3 and Santi 3-0'd him.
Oh, okay. Santi also, I just wanted to say, some of the first Santiago play I ever saw was at Pat's House 3. And I was like, oh, wow, that's really impressive. And I wish I knew more about this guy, aside from his Twitter, which did not leave a great impression on me.
Yeah.
It's the best Twitter ever.
It's getting better.
No, dude, that's Fictions, man. No.
Oh my god.
Fictions will get better.
The best Twitter in Melee. Top tier, baby. Woo!
You know what's a funny joke if I ever roasted them? It'd be like, I don't know why you guys are arguing to be secret bosses and like we're SoCal Smash Twitter.
I think that's what they're contention for, right?
Yeah.
Always back and forth. Sorry for the technical problems on my end. Appreciate the patience.
That's okay. This was actually a sick top 8. It made me looking back on it, like the one thing that hit me when looking at the results and VODs, this is like Fastfallers and Marth. Like it was such a sick top 8. Like Zain, Captain Falcon, like Falco, Westballz. Westballz, he finished only like 4th at this tournament, but if you're a West fan, this is an encouraging sign. Like being SFAT and Lucky, AbsentPage. I know that like individually on their own, that's not like breaking new ground for him, but beating all 3 in the same tournament is a pretty encouraging sign for a dude that definitely lost a best of 3 to Ralph and lost to Rick earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But at the same time, like 2 of them are guys that he plays a lot.
He beat
go,
SFAT so bad. He beat him so bad.
Yeah, he whooped him. That was a
And then
really fun
I
set.
saw today all of the tweets talking about how great SFAT's Fox was, which I
And you
wonder
were
if
just
there's.
thinking-
I
you were
wonder if these
thinking-
two events are correlated. Is all I'm saying. I'm putting on my little tinfoil hat, and I'm just
No.
wondering.
No, it's not a conspiracy theory to make SFAT feel better after getting ruthlessly destroyed by Wes. Those two have like such a fun little dynamic. I mean, Tafo, I'm sure you like know your good amount of Wes SFAT like banter or whatever.
They have giant egos. I think SFAT's been like specifically studying the Falco matchup, and he still got bodied. But like, it's kind of funny. Like, I feel like Wes has kind of like this like chip on his shoulder, and he gets into like arguments with like a lot of the other top spacies very often, like Leffen, SFAT, like Minor Beasts with like Lucky. Anyway, those are my thoughts on that. Well, I think aside from that, like, it's kind of funny that we had like 2 up and coming players or people that we perceive to be like kind of like rapidly improving in 2018 and 2017, and they like bombed this tournament from the standards we probably put on them in the AbsentPage and Army. Like, what do you guys think about that?
I don't remember how well either of them did.
That's
Did I
kind
even-
of that's
Army
kind of telling to
Lost
the
a
point.
close set to PewPewU and lost to Lucky. I think that's reasonable.
Him losing to Lucky. Okay, so there was a long stretch of time this year where Army would just destroy Lucky
Yeah.
over and over. Like it'd
Lucky
be
looks
brutal.
better now.
It'd be brutal. I think it was the fiction videos.
Yeah,
The fiction
the fiction
videos and
videos.
watching the other SoCal Fox do it. Like, I think Lucky started to kind of turn the corner back in his favor against Army as of lately. So I think as far as Army's results go, like losing to PewPewU and losing to Lucky is hardly like I wouldn't really mention that as like failed expectations, as more as like a conceivable basement for Army.
I think I disagree, and this is kind of like my issue with up and coming stars, is that if you're gonna put them at like a number 12 or number 13, then losing to top 20 players becomes an issue. Like, either you say those aren't bad losses and they are not top 11, or you say that they are like 18th or 17th.
Right, but it's bad losses if he like sustainably loses to them over like his record.
I don't think Army's top 11.
Okay,
Well, he's like close to it. I see what Tafo is saying.
Yeah,
Like,
I get this now in the SoCal PR placement. Yeah.
if
Wait, are you
Axe-
saying top 11 on SoCal PR? Or are you saying top 11 on like just in the world?
like people are putting him top 15-ish, like
Jesus.
I don't
Like,
know if he's going to be consistent enough to do that. I think Tafo's got a point. I think he's going to end up floating back down into the 25 tier, and he's going to beat a lot of good people a lot of the time and lose a lot of the time to some like top 50 people.
No, I think that's more than reasonable. And my only thing is that like I don't think this like I think it would be more conclusive to say if his like I expect his records to not be ridiculously positive by virtue like against the field and people around his skill tier, but virtue, and like I don't think being the 13th best player in the world or 14th best is like sustainable for him either.
so. I mean, I think
Not currently.
I think we all agree then, like from my understanding, that he's probably going to finish anywhere from like 16 to 30. And if that's the case, then I don't think it's a bad loss. But for people who are on the Army train saying he's like a top 15 or better player, then these are bad losses.
Yeah, I agree.
The point I'm getting at.
I just think he's going to win a major. I just think it's all going to line up and everyone's going to get grabbed. And Armada is nowhere near ready to stop Armada Del Duca if he's retiring from singles.
The greatest punish game on planet Earth.
I mean, if he had Mango and Mutaking and like maybe Axe like in his bracket to like win, like he could win that, right?
You're gonna do your boy like
Mango,
that? No faith.
and that could be the tournament.
I mean, what if we substituted Mango for Hungry Box? You know, I'm trying to think of like
Hungry Box will probably beat him, but that's what Zain is for, and that's what Wizrobe's for. They just
that's
beat
what-
H-Box.
Oh, never mind. I thought you were talking about Army for a second. I was gonna say, you want someone to stop Army's path? Put Michael in his path. Michael will put an end to that shit quicker than anyone else.
Just have Spark beat Michael again.
or slower than anyone else, not quicker.
Yeah, Army is always going to have those
Dylan.
matchups. I think, like every IZs.
Yeah. Yeah, it's almost like Army is an ICs player who wobbles. But I mean, I'm not gonna play politics here.
This is like the Choudat thing last year as well, when people were having him even like number 7. Like there was a brief stretch of time early last year where someone who shall not be named on this podcast is putting Choudat as the number 6 player in Melee, and that definitely like was not sustainable, and he clearly fell off as the next like year and a half showed.
Remember, he played 2 even sets with Leffen, and we were all like, "Yeah, that makes sense. Maybe Chu will just win really solidly the next time."
Yeah, it's just kind of absurd looking back at it, and maybe Army won't be the same way. Maybe he will, but I don't know. This is just more talk about like a innately high variance character. So it seems like we're on the same page here.
I think people will also develop anti-Army tech. I think the fiction videos are really big. I mean, you show the fiction videos, and all of a sudden maybe Darktooth has to play Army, or like any of the up and coming foxes have to play Army, and now you have liability.
Dude, you just shine. Separate them. You make yourself the meat of that sandwich. That tasty mayo.
You just disrespect Nana over and over and over again.
God, you just disrespect her.
It's almost.
Tafo, I want to bring something up about AbsentPage too, because I think I don't think he started getting like usually players in terms of community perception, they go through phases of being like super like heralded as the next great thing. Like people were having AbsentPage like top 20. I think he's starting. Maybe it was the acid tweet, but I feel like he's starting to get pushed back now. Like people are like starting to have more realistic expectations of AbsentPage because his records against like people in his skill tier, even like 26 to 50, are not that great. He's still
he's definitely on a cooler a little bit, and I don't think he's done well in SoCal particularly. Whenever he's come.
Yeah, he lost a captain face roll for 9th at that SSS a while ago.
I think that was winners. But yeah, and then Fiction beating him. Who else beat him?
Yeah, it was winners, you're right.
It was Westballz. Westballz beat him very
Yeah, Westballz destroyed him in a 2-0. Oh my god. That was also another big West was on something against Fox this tournament. Good to see. Shades of 2015 West, one might say.
I mean, I think Johnny lost to AbsentPage going Falco game, if I remember right.
Yeah. I think that happened.
We might have just seen a hot streak, and now we're just seeing a little bit of regression in the mean.
That sounds about right.
Yeah, no. People saw those tweets of his, and they just got discouraged, and they were like, "How could someone so good at Melee be, tweet like this and just think like this?" And
welcome to Melee. We read Mutaking's Twitter.
Yeah, I know.
Have you
right?
read Mutaking's anything?
No, I agree with you. Yeah, you psyched for that book, Edwin?
I'm really excited for the book. I'm so excited.
I am.
For the book.
There's gonna be a whole
some wild shit.
There's gonna be a whole chapter dedicated to like Jigglypuff, and it's gonna go like beyond his initial timeline. And it's gonna be like I always thought Puff was amazing. I developed a strategy in 2009 that hacks couldn't defeat in a friendly, and therefore I was advocating for ledge grab limits before everyone else. But of course, no one listened to me, and I refound. And when everyone started talking about it in 2017. But it was really bad.
I'm buying that book instantly. It will be my favorite book of the year.
It'll fly off the shelves.
Also, I have to be honest. I will always tell the truth, even if it gets. That's my favorite line of his when he's writing like a controversial opinion.
He's gonna talk about Hitler again.
Oh, okay. Switch of topics.
Right. Change the topic.
PewPewU. He's had a really good summer. I think this is the first time in like a year and a half or maybe 2 years where PewPewU has looked like the better NorCaler than SFAT. If you take a look at his summer, like he's like I think his worst performance is like a 17th at Shine, but like his bad loss there, quotes and bad, is Gatsu, who also had a really strong summer. Like you look at his records against like Wes, even he's doing a lot better against SFAT than he was in the past.
Didn't he? Oh wait, no, that was Shine. Which tournament did he get revenge on Gatsu again?
I should know this off the top of my head. It might have been Evo. No, Gatsu lost to Armada at Evo in losers. It was another summer tournament. I should remember this off the top of my head. But yeah, I was looking against his record within the summer, and from Smash and Splash to the end of DreamHack like Montreal. PewPewU's records against players ranked 11 to 25 on the summer MPGR is 6-6, which like doesn't sound that great. But if you take a look at like the other people within that skill range and how they do against peers, usually the trend is slightly negative. So
Can you
for
chill? No.
so much. So for PewPewU to like go even or show consistent success against them is actually like a pretty good hallmark and not like average. So shout out to him. I feel like there's a perception of him versus Wes as like super PewPewU favored, but Wes had like they've both kind of taken turns beating up on each other.
No, it's still super PewPewU favored.
Yeah, but I'm saying like, is it PewPewU favorite right now because he's on a stretch, or is it because PewPewU just always had the edge on him?
I think PewPewU's always had the edge on him.
I'm gonna check the Tafo stats on that later because I remember Wes was on like a 3-set winning streak against the WoW, but maybe
that was like a long time ago.
Maybe PewPewU's in the middle of a hot streak. Yeah, I'm gonna take a look at this right now.
PewPewU played beautifully at SmashCon, where he made top 8, right? Or he didn't just make top 8; he got like 4th.
He got 4th,
think, right?
Yeah,
Yeah,
he beat Army in a tournament where Army spanked all the other Marth players.
God, wait, actually, okay, SmashCon was such a weird tournament. I have not had the opportunity to talk about this on this podcast, but it was so bizarre. I hate to go on this tangent, but also I love to go on this tangent.
You did beat them very badly.
So I'm gonna do it. Is like the difference in the room and in just like the crowd of people watching sets from like top 8 of SmashCon last year when like Zain was the hometown hero and there was just all this just positive energy surrounding that, and everyone was so excited to watch and beat SFAT, and it was huge. And then such a dramatic shift to this year when PewPewU and Army are playing. And it's a California, top, match in top 8, and the East Coast is just completely disinterested, and everyone watched Lucky Junebug. It was just really somber. And, oh man alive!
It's very funny.
Yeah, it's very funny, of course. Yeah, no, but it was so wild to like dart around the room during Top 64 and just listen to people groan and moan and listen to the creak of their bones as like they talked about Puff and Ices and lamenting their UCF and that this is a wasteland.
That's nothing new to your region, though, right? I mean,
yeah, it's been a long thing in MDVA.
I watched some tournaments.
Wait,
what? Mojo versus Jerry.
Ooh, we don't talk about the Xanadu championship
I've watched
final.
some things.
Let me tell you, oof, big oof. Shouts out to the Xanadu championship finals actually, which advertised like one time back at like the beginning of whenever they had the new venue, and then a Virginia house.
The hashtag stood for at any point.
What hashtag?
Gamer kept tweeting it out for a hashtag, and I never knew what the hashtag meant, so I didn't watch the tournament.
Well, the worst part was that a popular Northern Virginia house tournament series that has a slightly inappropriate name I won't share here accidentally scheduled over the Xanadu Championship Finals, and all the PR players said, "Oh, I'd love to come to that. That would be great."
That's why.
And where did they not go? Yeah, they didn't go, and that's why Icy Mojo qualified for top 8 because he.
Good work, Icy Mojo.
Great work, Icy Mojo.
Okay, so I double checked on this. Tafo, PewPewU is up 11-5. You're right, but PewPewU is in the middle of a four set winning streak, so it was a lot closer before this current.
Yeah, but like streak. When it was closer, that was like 5 years ago. Like I feel like that was
it's been a while.
Oh, okay, CLG Stan. All right.
Yeah, it was like 2 years. It's been on like 2 years and super positive.
I'm not a stan. I just tell the facts.
It's okay. We're all about this is Melee Stats. You're the granddaddy of Melee Stats here, so it makes sense that.
Am I though?
Yeah, the great granddaddy's like Neil DT. The great granddaddy's like Neil DT.
I'm talking in the chat about Smash Masters. Didn't Esports Arena like schedule a tournament for this Saturday? And it was gonna have Zain versus S2J. And there was like a lot of money in the pot, and now I can't find anything on it.
Is that the one that they wanted to hold in like Beijing or something? Wasn't there something like that?
Giant in Beijing. That's so racist.
That wasn't even intended.
Well, ESA messed up. That's all I gotta say. I think Tip to the West literally got canceled, and I think Zain is in SoCal, probably hopefully visiting family, but he's been lured here. And what do we do with him?
ECA or ESA promises.
Zain's a good kid. We had a nice lunch with him, Edwin.
We did have a very nice lunch with him that we don't have to. We don't have
Wait,
to go
I
into
love
detail.
Zain.
Edwin,
God.
Edwin pulled
Was it
out.
as good as your experience with Cyrox, Edwin?
No, that's we're not gonna go into this. right now.
Confidential.
Yeah, this is a
Yeah,
secret.
we'll save it for the roast.
You're not
The
invited.
roast of who? The roast. Okay.
There's a speaking of Zayn though, he kind of got washed in both grands and winners.
Ooh.
I
Good
saw some.
segue.
He looked so good on stream at Mango's house when Johnny was a little less drunk. Johnny was more drunk, I think, that day, and I think it made him more powerful.
He was definitely. I forgot
The
who
luck of the
he
Irish.
drank with, but
Tafo, you were on like 20.
I'm
Okay.
smart.
Okay. I'm not gonna say because I
I was
as a
pretty- I
joke
was-
on commentary like stole your drink, expecting it to be like water, and I was gonna pretend it was straight like grain alcohol, and I was surprised. I was surprised.
I
We don't have to talk about it.
I had a good time.
Good time.
That's what tournaments are all about. Just having fun.
Dude,
Oh, yeah.
I was getting so frustrated at Zayn in grand finals because he kept missing edge guards. SJ would live up to like 120% and stuff. Like that's supposed to be like
Falcon's job.
it's like the thing that Marth is supposed to do so much better in the matchup. Like keep hitting Falcon off stage or just like end him at low percents.
Who wins that matchup, by the way? Just out of curiosity.
Human level Falcon, theoretical level Marth.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think in practice it's probably even just because it's so high variance. But I think Marth does really well, and like there's a lot of punish game stuff that all the Marths do a lot better now. But SJ spoke about this in the post game interview or the post tournament interview, and I kind of agree with him. I think a lot of them now just kind of don't do anything, so they just like don't approach, or they don't maximize their like openings or like chances. So like there was it's a really good. I talked to Drug Fox about this, about like what the current Marts were doing, and he was telling me that like a lot of what people forget is that like when you avoid like an engagement, or if you just like don't commit, and like if you just like don't do much, like that on its own carries risk if you're refusing to gamble, because you're turning down like potential greater rewards and just kind of biding time. So
well, you
That's
can
why I
tell
went to the
there's many little interactions where you can tell Zayn doesn't know what he's doing against Falcon. And like, for example, like for whatever reason, he kept trying to grab Johnny's aerials, and Johnny would just gentleman like every time. And I'm just like, dude, like you can't shield grab this. And like if he just waits like for Johnny to like knee on shield and an aerial, then like you get a free grab. But like there's just so many like things like that. Like he didn't know like what he was doing.
It's almost like there isn't a lot of Falcon practice.
Well, come on. I mean, you
guys got
I think-
Junebug's Falcon.
Yeah, you got Junebug's Falcon, you got Rishi's Falcon, who doesn't live there anymore. Thumbs way up. We got the Brig.
Oh, thumbs way up. That's a blast from the past.
We haven't seen him for years, so I'm sure
Theo
the
too.
same
might
got
as well
2 sets
say-
against him lifetime.
I mean, you might as well say like the Blur's like good Falcon, like Marth practice.
Of course
Like
he is. Of course
Yeah.
he is.
Oh, of course.
What
The
about
Blur teaches us
what about
a lot.
Hood Cash? Hood Cash is a Maryland
Hood Cash is
legend of his own right.
What
met
was I
Hood
gonna
Cash,
say?
like, once at a Connecticut tournament. I've never talked to him after that. I just remembered.
I think Marth beats Falcon if Spaceys aren't in the game, so Marths get distracted and only learn those 2 matchups.
That's a great matchup opinion.
That
I need to
hurts.
start
It
having
hurt my
matchup opinions
soul.
like that one.
Like I think Marth straight up beats Sheik and Falcon if Spaceys don't exist.
well,
It's
here's
more
my
By
just
necessity.
here's my other controversial like hot take opinion. Like I don't think you're like we see so many like Marths and like X-player that can combo Spacey so well, like ride through pools. Like they're like the equivalent of ice climbers in my head. Like if that makes any sense. Like they know how to combo Fox well, but they don't actually know how to play the game.
Are you talking about? Is this a shot at John Wick? from
No.
Arizona because
Dude,
I've
John Wick's
definitely
so good versus Falcon.
I've had that same thought about John Wick versus
John Wick's so
Oh,
good versus Falcon. Don't
John
ever
Wick and other
in your
matches.
life say this, Edwin.
No, I said against Fastfallers, not just Fox and Falcon. He's good. He's got the trifecta down.
Yeah,
Like I would say Fendy's a gimmick, and he would tell you
Yes.
that he's a gimmick.
that is correct.
Yeah, but God, can that man punish a double jump? Oh
It's
my
so
goodness.
funny.
He's got
God.
the timing. The
That
timing.
is so funny.
One of my
Fendy.
first like friendly sessions when I like moved back to MDVA and was like playing competitive melee there for the first time was I actually went over to Fendy's apartment and played with him and his roommate, and then DOH came over for like a short amount of time and I mean, you know, beat up on all of us. But Fendy like asked me, like turns me and he's like, "Do you want advice?" And I'm like, yeah, sure. And he's like, "I'm just gonna punish you for every single double jump that you do." And I was so frustrating. I thought I was so good at that matchup.
He's so tall.
Fendy's definitely a Chad Marth, if you know what I'm talking about. Right?
Yeah.
I don't know what you're talking about.
No, I absolutely
Very
do.
very swingy, super. Like it speaks for itself.
How are you
You
just
never
hanging
played
out in the
Chad-
corner? How is he Chad Marth?
You've never played a Chad Marth, like walk up crouching forward smash. Who? I guess we won't know.
I guess we'll never know. Shame.
There's only Mix in my heart. Hold on, I think my internet has
Oh, you're back.
died again. Oh,
No, you're-
I was
you're
gonna say
good.
Dia. I was gonna say Mix. Mix is my Chad Marth.
Dear.
And I also think Wieners is good, and Owl from San Diego is terrifying, and I pray to God no top player ever has to play him.
Owl's super good. Also, Stango for Chad Martz. He's a big. Stango is like what I think of.
What's Stango doing? Where's he?
Stango, more like Stanko. That's it. That's what
Oh,
I think.
Oh,
more like I don't know.
Stanko fat.
I feel bad because like I was actually talking with like one of his friends about him one time. This is Ryan. This is someone I've never met. I want to make that very clear. And I was just like, oh, you know Stanko, and I just said it like Stanko, just like it was, any other day, run of the mill.
This is like when you called Zain Peng Boys.
Yeah, it was actually exactly what like when I said that because I was like, oh, Pengu, oh, like Peng Boys, right? Yeah, that's cool. Love you too.
Pengu, by the way, notable coward for not appearing on this show.
Because he was doing grocery shopping / hanging out with Chroma's sister.
Yep.
That had not come through.
Wow, that's a great way to word it, Edwin. What's next on our agenda?
Well, SJ won the Roast of Hugo, and there was absolutely nothing else that happened over the last week
shopping.
Melee. There was nothing that happened yesterday.
Nope.
Nothing at all. Just another normal week of Melee.
Yep.
It makes
go on.
it makes me so sad that like because I have to keep up with other esports. Like you can go to PAX and if you finish in the top 100 for Fortnite, you get $5,000. Like I'm like, man, that was like 20 Roast of Hugo tournaments, right? How much did Johnny win for first? Does anybody know? It's probably like $500, maybe if you're lucky. Maybe $250.
You know how angry he was. Not I mean, what was it like? 10?
He won
I think it was
$1,700.
$5 singles entry.
He won
okay.
$1,700 per Liquipedia.
I mean, I know Venue was like free. And
Oh,
I think
there's a
singles
pop
entry was like
bonus.
$5 or $10.
There's a pop bonus. Got it.
What?
There was a 3K pop bonus apparently.
Oh, pop bonus?
I guess there was.
Okay.
Hmm.
Oh, okay. Well, that's gonna do it, I guess. Yeah.
Poor Chroma.
I saw a funny meme on the internet. This.
Oh, Chroma, I can't hear you. We can't hear you.
I just want to say that, like obviously, I know what Chroma is leading into, but this is such a out of context. This is such a godlike transition. I just saw a funny meme on the internet. Like, can you imagine starting like a serious discussion on an actual topic that's hurting this match scene?
I'm back.
Can you just like Discord on your phone?
That's what I'm doing. I'm literally off Wi-Fi on Discord on my phone on audio, just with the Growlithe as my video.
Your guardian.
I
So
am
Chroma,
so upset.
Chroma, you tell us you saw a funny meme on Twitter. Some of my non-Smash friends also told me recently that they saw a funny meme on Twitter. They messaged me privately to say, "I saw this funny meme. Can you explain this?"
A lot of people told me about this one.
A lot of people told you about that meme.
You know that one where something suspicious happens and then they cut to some government officials saying, "Ladies and gentlemen, we got him."
Yes, I'm familiar. Yeah.
You were the clock that was ticking. Someone posted incriminating information on their stream about sex.
Yeah. So
Yeah, someone sure did.
yeah. So I don't really.
That all happened.
Yeah. So long story short.
Holy moly.
Long story short, we had an episode a couple of weeks ago that talked about the different misconduct issues in.
It was your guys'. Oh no. Go ahead, Edwin.
What's that?
I'm just remembering. He was watching your video.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean he was watching the Melee Stats podcast, and obviously the topic of Nightmare came up, along with the topic of Mafia Eichelman.
It's so nice that we can just say his name now. Like we can just say, yeah, it was Nightmare. We're talking about Nightmare. Like
We can say Nightmare because we're woke.
we are what my
shut up. Oh
my third eye is busted open right now. Just that's where I'm at.
So basically, long story short, Trulliam saw what we were talking about. He felt pretty upset about it. Obviously, like
He was very upset.
Yeah, he was
very, very mad.
He's pretty annoyed at how we were talking about it. Sort of like not me, but how you and the rest of the panel on that episode were talking about it. He saw it as unfair. I caught wind of him talking about it, so I popped into his stream. And obviously, I've been pretty vocal about not wanting Nightmare at events. Like I don't mind saying it like now, and I never minded saying it. But I just kind of entered this discussion with Trulliam over the course of like 30 minutes, or it felt like 30 minutes or so, where I asked him like straight up like, "Hey, why are you standing with your guy? Like, is there like what do you know that is making you comfortable like sticking with him?" And I also asked him, "Is Nightmare ever convicted of a sexual offense?" And he just like, it didn't hit me at the time just how like absurd it was, because it was just like so unexpected. And he just straight up was like, "Oh yeah, he was convicted of sexual interference or whatever." And and basically a clip of that started circulating.
He named the crime.
Excuse me?
He named the crime.
Yeah, which is like that
which
was
is the very thing that Nightmare and Ontario claimed didn't happen. Repeatedly, publicly, in legal situations, in non-legal situations, on Twitter, on social media, at their tournaments, in their scene.
Yeah,
and
so
Trulliam very clearly knew.
I mean, I feel like the original post, just to kind of, I hate to be that guy, but like the initial claims by the victim were a little bit different, and that's what they denied. But no one ever mentioned sexual interference, which I don't think Nightmare could ever deny in that case.
Yeah.
So go ahead.
Oh, I was just going to say that the letter that Nightmare published on Twitter on behalf of his lawyers, that never at all, one, never uses the word guilty, and two, it never uses the term sexual interference. This is something that the ever-observant Edwin Budding pointed out in his blog post that I have read many times over, because it still blows my mind that people read that letter and said, "Oh, well, it didn't say that he was guilty of the very specific things that people said he was guilty of." So, therefore,
the letter that said, "Oh no, it was a romantic relationship between a 14 or 15-year-old and someone in their 20s, deep in their 20s."
Yep.
Law does say that something like 15 or 20 is.
I think,
and then everyone read that and said, "Oh yeah, no, he didn't do it. He didn't do it."
And they said
that you should apologize.
Yeah.
I mean, I think the thing that sort of the thing that's sort of stood out to me, and I can already see there's Ontario in chat right now. So I mean, I'm not gonna like ask like they're free to sit in. No, I'm just giving context.
Oh no, we all know what they think. They've made it very clear what they think over the last 9 months, however long since that court date.
I mean, I was willing to sort of obviously when the rumors started going about before even the statement in July, like I was sort of willing to think that maybe like people didn't know what the situation was, and because I caught wind of like the sexual interference charge around the same time.
I'm sure some of them didn't know, and I'm sure Nightmare told some of them some things, and they were like, "Well, he's the homie. I'll believe that. It's easiest for me." Yeah, and I think that's look, when something bad happens in your scene, it's reasonable for people to circle the wagons.
Yeah, I mean, I told Trulliam
on it.
I told Trulliam like I don't know where to start like having a dialogue with you because our moral foundation is so different. Like I know you're bringing up like gripes that you had with the victim, you're bringing up gripes with how people have talked about it online, but like the dating, like for me, dating a minor as a member in the scene is like that's not like Trulliam acknowledged that was bad, which I guess I can give him credit for, but one of the
Trulliam also acknowledged that he hasn't thought about this.
Yeah, I think how I would engage it, like if I were like, so kind of like I'm trying to play like role reversal here, and like let's say like Nightmare was my friend or like my homie, and then somebody straight up asked me on my stream like, dude, your friend did X, Y, and Z. Like I think naturally in that position, like I would be very defensive over it. Like if I wanted to be like, yo, like if Trulliam were to talk about Nightmare and I was like kind of in the shoes and I was like inquiring like where to see where his headspace is at, like I would probably do it privately over DMs. Because then because you have this audience with you, like you're inclined to have to be defensive, and the thoughts and the feelings you may have in regards to situations are probably going to be a lot more filtered. Where I think if I just said, hey, Trulliam, I saw this on your Twitch the other day, you're defending him. Are you aware about this? And can we talk about it? And then I would probably go from there.
Yeah. And there's some people in the Ontario scene that I've talked to that are saddened by it. And there really is a culture perpetrated by a select few people that say it's not cool to say anything against Nightmare, you know?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I mean, it's also that they see it as recoverable. Like they don't think that they see him like his history of dating like this 15-year-old, and they see it as like, oh, well, she was 3 months or whatever from turning 16. He said I'm not condoning what he did, but should he be banned? Like, why is it a big deal? Like, he hasn't done anything in 3 years or whatever. Like, I don't think that's like the right approach to it, because the key thing is like he was in a relationship. Like, that's not gonna, like, if our moral foundation about assessing that is different, I don't know how to, other than like empathizing your shoes of how I would deal with a friend doing it. I don't know like what I can do to really change your opinion.
Can I interrupt really quickly, because I want to talk about something that Trulliam released today before he deleted his Twitter, which was a video explaining why his Twitch had been deleted, so that all of his 25 or more fans could hear about it, and talking about the Nightmare situation and describing his perception of it. And there were a lot of very interesting choices he made that I would not necessarily have made as well, such as
he actually violated Canadian law.
And he named the victim, which is incredibly messed up. That is not something that you should do. That's unacceptable, and that is illegal, right? That is illegal.
Literally, there is now. I'm not going to talk about it.
Okay, great. But that's
Trulliam, if he sees this, should remove that video for his own good, or at least remove that part of it.
I think he just needs like an older person to be like, yo, dog, you can't be doing that. Like, I feel like each one of us growing up, like, kind of been learning the boundaries of what we cannot do. And when
how old is Trulliam?
I think he's 21.
He's 21. I'm 19. Like, I know not to do that. What's the deal?
Trust me, there are a lot of people that would not know that's not cool.
I know, but it's frustrating that they're all there's a large concentration of them that are in the gamer sphere and that are all enabling each other to do reckless, illegal, and potentially endangering stuff on the internet. It's it's really frustrating.
It is frustrating because I mean I see your point because like all of us have been tiptoeing to see like what is the correct route to go, and to see it kind of come out like this, just like, gosh dang it.
Yeah,
Well, it came out with with a friend of the accused being thoughtless about his words and just straight up saying what happened and playing it off like it wasn't a big deal. Like, the absurdity of that is just like hit me so much today. It just like that he would go out and say be like, yeah, my friend was convicted of sexual interference.
I worked so hard on this news story and he just tweeted it out.
Yeah. I'm kind of wondering like, so like I thought about like, so obviously this is like a super black one. Like if we were to look at white and black issues, it's clearly not okay, like on so many levels. And I don't want to be an apologist, but like, do we ban people from different cultures that like, where myself personally, I don't think it's acceptable to have like a 28 and a 15-year-old. But like, what if like people from another culture move to America and have these like really wide range like kind of relationships?
That is an interesting question. So let's say that Canada, the age of consent is 14, right? Do we ban Nightmare?
I mean, I think we ban it. I think that's like a like Nightmare, like he broke the law, so I think that's like a non-starter. But like, let's say it's someone from another country where it's like 12.
Right. If he's from somewhere there where that's not illegal, where I can maybe go up to a 10-year-old girl's parents and say, I'm going to date her with your permission, and that's how this is going to go, right?
Mm-hmm.
We clearly on our end don't think that's consent. We think it's coerced and that it's probably not mutual, but like that most likely woman is unfortunately going to be put in this position is like the pretenses I have.
I mean, do we have precedent for that in the Smash scene, or is this just a hypothetical?
Yeah, that would be my question as well.
I mean, I think what I'm wondering is like, where's the tethering line? Like, to me, like, regardless of culture, I would not be comfortable with the idea. Like, if my friend was like, yo, like, I'm 20, I'm 24, and I'm dating this 15-year-old, like, regardless of culture, I just feel super uncomfortable with that.
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a tournament organizer, if I was running an event, I would say I don't want that kind of if you want to have that relationship with your significant other or whatever, like I don't want it to be I don't want to support that kind of thing at my event. That's ultimately what it would come, because I think people forget that like when you're banning someone from Melee or that's even like putting it in terms of that is kind of misleading, because you're not stopping them from playing the game with like their friends or like even net player or like holding fests of their own. You're just saying that like, and obviously like it's a little more complicated than that if like they want to do it as a career, like if you have significant influence over your scene, but like you're just saying that we don't want you in this specific space. Like no one can ban you from playing a video game. So I think that's another thing. So that would be kind of my basis around how I would come up with my decision from before.
I mean, like, so I think we are all in agreement, but like, maybe I'm just like thinking too much of this and like my head goes for a spin on these kind of hypotheticals. You guys deal with me all the time on Discord, just me exploring like kind of the gray areas. Like, but like whatever person did like come from a different culture and then come through America and then they slowly unravel like, okay, this is not okay here. I need to slowly change my ways. And then they hear about my history back in XYZ country where like that person did, I guess, have sex with like a minor.
I think my only because it's such because I've never heard of precedent like this within Smash or any other like maybe you know precedent for this in other like competitive games. Like I wouldn't have a good. I'm not sure what my answer would be other than like my instinctual response of saying it doesn't matter. Like I don't want that in my place.
Yeah. I think that's a very up to TO's discretion kind of thing. I also just like I think a big part of me is just like because the thing with the Nightmare situation is this man expressing remorse? Is he making an effort to get in front of it and make sure it never happens again and that he won't be a threat to other people? Can't really say that for sure, I would say.
Or like,
and I think the sad reality I think of a lot of these situations too is that I think we like to imagine hypotheticals in which, like, oh, like this person does something that's, you know, either morally gray or outright like a morally just wrong situation. And, you know, well, what if they feel remorse, and what if they're really trying to get in front of it and, you know, be a better person and yada yada. But I think time and time again, what we see are these people who are grossly entitled to competing in children's video game tournaments.
Right.
And I don't necessarily feel an overwhelming need or desire to like pursue these hypotheticals, even though I know that there may eventually come a day where like as a community, as a person in a community, I may have to deal with them eventually, and I may have to talk with leaders and TOs about, you know, what our comfort levels are with like including that person. But it's like, at the present moment, I think there's a much more pressing issue of just like there are a lot of people who just don't experience remorse and don't live it.
So I think like my like kind of where I'm coming from is like I think I'm more of an let's take this case by case, but if I'm on the CFC, I need to have some stuff written as like kind of guidelines. So that's like kind of like the one issue I deal with.
Yeah.
But in terms of like the other issue I kind of like have, like, so me personally, like I don't think there's like really too many cases where like let's say like a 35-year-old should be dating a 19-year-old.
Okay.
Like I just don't think there's like very too often cases where like that 35-year-old isn't taking advantage of the 19-year-old.
Yeah.
And that's my that's my individual belief. I could be burnt to the stake for that, but like I think in my head, I'm like, okay, there's like nothing good that comes out of this. Like, do I inject my personal morality here saying like a 35-year-old in the community shouldn't be dating this like 19-year-old like college girl? Like,
because your point is because that's an issue of morality and not legality.
it might be like morality in the sense of safety. Like there's like no reason why this relation in my head, like I could be making a lot of assumptions and pretenses that like that like I don't see this ending well, or I had this natural skepticism of seeing like what is going on here.
Yeah. And
like
how does this what are the ramifications of this for the community, the greater community as well?
Yeah.
That's an understandable concern to have.
And so like that's kind of like where like I'm exploring this space where I don't really have answers. And once again,
So
please
it's the
forgive
question
me.
of
So the question is, it's like, okay, like I think us as a culture and like I think intuitively we come to this agreement that like a 25-year-old has no business dating a 15-year-old. Like you see it on Twitter, and I think we all are on the same page on that. Like to me, like to a loose extent, like I think like a 35-year-old and an 18-year-old have like no business like dating each other. Like I just don't see it working out well.
I think from a morality and where they are in their lives and that kind of thing, I totally.
And so like a lot of the Twitter comments I see is like, well, regardless of law, like a 15-year-old should not go out with a 20-year-old. I agree with that, but what stops that line from saying like I don't think like a 35-year-old should be dating an 18-year-old? And am I imposing my personal biases in that?
Right. I mean, in this case, you know, it did violate the law, and I think that one is an easy case. You have to hold everything to, you know, and that's a tricky point. I think it's a point for the COC.
Yeah.
Starting point is, if it is a sex crime, I think that's a good place to start.
So I agree, but like I think one of the core arguments was like
that,
if like let's say it didn't violate the law, like we'd all still feel uneasy about it, right? Like even if the law wasn't broken, I think we all collectively agree that that's something that feels very uncomfortable and not right. Would we
I'm
still
also
ban?
wondering if like I'm also wondering, just again going to hypothetical, if like behavior like that exists in a vacuum of just like, oh, this totally not suspicious in any other way 35-year-old man is dating this 19-year-old woman. I don't know how common that scenario is, to be honest, for that to just totally exist without any context whatsoever.
Yeah, I don't know. It just in general, like I can understand where you're coming from and thinking of like these fringe or fairly uncommon hypotheticals and seeing how we could make our a code of conduct like consistent with that. And I see the value in it. I just wouldn't really think about it because I'm not sure we have a perfect process for common cases or cases that we should theoretically have like down.
I mean,
You know,
is this is just like a social kind of thing where if like I'm 30, like if I have like a 32-year-old homeboy and he's attracted to an 18-year-old, I'd be like, yo, dog, like, no. It's just where like your friends step in and just be like, hey, like, nah, don't think it's a good idea.
I think while obviously age of consent laws are flawed for a variety of reasons that we could go into or look up online. I think like for a scene that doesn't really have that great of a starting point, like I think for now, like it's kind of like what we have to go with.
Yeah.
And then moving on from there, like we kind of have to build our way up.
That's fair. I'm just kind of wondering like where we supersede like an age of consent law. That's like kind of
I
like
don't know about that. I think so many people are still uncomfortable with the idea of melee committees or counselors or TOs or anybody making decisions outside of the legal system's judgment, which I think is profoundly messed up that people would feel so hesitant about that. But that's a whole other issue.
You're talking about like when is our so Tafo, just to clarify, you're mentioning like cases where our collective like social perspective on something supersedes like the law, correct?
Yeah, because like if you look at like California, and this is something my wife showed me, like technically a 20-year-old like in California could go out with like a 14-year-old. I don't really feel comfortable with that idea.
Yeah, so I was gonna sort of bring your point, like what happened in Ontario, at least socially, based on what like Trulliam thought and what other people thought, like by allowing Nightmare like back at events, doesn't that kind of implicitly say that they were okay with having someone in his 20s date a 15-year-old and eventually come back? Like,
yeah,
in that case, like and I know there were other like from a TO perspective, there were other factors like legal threats that may have like held someone like Joe from banning Nightmare like for much longer and much faster. But like as far as like the social dynamics go, like it's kind of like that situation, but in reverse. But instead of from like an authoritative figure, it's from the prominent members of the community. Like I know, like the Hyenas are all fairly behind Nightmare. Ryan Ford, I know, is Trulliam is like.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually a pretty good point you bring up, because it can be applied in this situation just in a different way.
I think the tough part is like deciding like length of ban, because like there are people, minority groups in this community that would advocate for like a lifetime, and I understand their frustrations and where they're coming from. And so I think the tough part here is like if we do agree, like if this is a ban-worthy offense and like things do come out, like is this like a lifetime thing? Like is this a beyond redeemable? I think that's like kind of where like people differ in opinion. Like is this like a 2 years? Is this a 10 years? Is this a lifetime? Like,
I mean, based on sort of my intuitive thoughts about it, and I think that I want to sort of pivot this back into the main point of discussion that I wanted to start off with, is the fact that like the real thing that I think really like the thing that not only just got confirmed but also got stated with like legal precedent in it is the fact that he was dating a minor. And I think like for me and a lot of other people in the scene, that is the line that like is not recoverable, at least in terms of like a person's ability to attend nationals and attend tournaments in their region. Like for me, I think that the fact that he willfully like he was dating in a romantic relationship with a 15-year-old as a person in his 20s, to me is just like is really disgusting. And it sort of like baffled me that it still really confuses me that a lot of Ontario was fine with it.
Yeah.
Because for me, like what happened afterwards is not really relevant. Like we can talk about these hypotheticals. We could talk about ways to like sort of perfect this process of like assigning people like punishments or finding ways to deal with these issues. But in the Nightmares case specifically, which I wanted to bring up, is the fact that we had to confirm that he was dating a minor, and we have an actual charge, like legal label attached to it. So for me, like that any other discussion around it, like it would have to be centered on explaining to people why that's not okay, or them telling me why it's not okay, even though obviously it's not going to change my mind.
I mean, I think what's going to be interesting to me is like if you like interview Ontario people and say like, do you think is figuring out the shades of gray in terms of what do they mean by condoning it, because obviously like they don't think it's worth, like, do they think the individual act is like, because we look at Trulliam, who hasn't really thought this out, and Trulliam's like, yeah, I think that's bad. I don't think it's bad enough to like merit a lifetime ban. And like just being able to pick like their brains to see like, okay, we're in a spectrum, like how bad do you think this is? And then also trying to, I think what would be like really cool is like if we brought perspective from our end and like kind of a civil discussion like between like fiction and Chroma, like where like does this end up, and could we like kind of like push the boundaries and say like, hey, it's bad because of XYZ, you may not see it this way, and like be able to communicate that.
I mean, that's what Trulliam and I tried last night, and I actually thought, for as disappointed as I am in his perspective or like his conclusion from it, like I actually was happy that we talked. I felt like I was making at least a little bit of progress with him, and I was hearing sort of like what his frustrations were and finding ways to like address it and tell him like, okay, like I understand that, but that doesn't mean it's okay. It was just in a Twitch stream, I think it's much tougher when you're and when you have to deal with like a lot of other people, like the public optics that come from it, and
it turns into tribalism, right?
Yeah, and near the end of our like conversation or whatever, I actually like there were obviously like tense moments and whatever like going on. Like Ryan Ford came in, like a bunch of other people came in. It got a little ugly between like me, the few other people in chat, but like between me and Trulliam, like I remember telling him like if you want to talk about this at Big House and like have a civil conversation, like I'm more than happy to sit down and like explain to you why I don't think boys should be allowed at events. That's like my problem is not with Trulliam, and I don't think obviously like my problem with someone that I view as complicit or enabling just goes as much as their actions for the other person. Like I don't have anything against like him in particular, or like even the hyenas, like like our friends. But my problem is about making sure that like our community is safe of people that date minors. History of dating a minor. I don't want someone that does that in our scene. Like I would like to explain that to the person.
Oh no, Chroma died.
Oh.
You were saying, I think you had a thought. I actually don't know your name.
Me?
I just refer to you as Saint Nicholas.
Oh, it's totally fine. My actual name is Nicole, but I also go by Saint Nicholas or Nikki. I go by all sorts of names. It's totally fine. I don't know. I think we should just ban these people for life. I don't think it's that big of a deal if they can't play Melee anymore. I think it's someone described it to me. No, it was Pidge, who TOs Smash 64 for SmashCon and speedruns and does a lot of other great things. But she made a post around the time, I want to say around like the original accusations versus Mafia, or not versus, but of Mafia. And she said something like, if you like sexually assaulted someone at a company or like sexually harassed someone at a company, you wouldn't come back to that same company 6 months later and like beg HR for a job. And it's like, yeah, it's like if you, and like granted that was like for a very specific situation of like someone within the community being assaulted, but like I still think that does kind of apply of like if that happens while you are involved with Melee and doing stuff with Melee, does that mean that you get to come back? I don't know. I don't think so.
I think if it's like, I think like if it goes to the process, like I totally agree with you. Like if it's like speculative, because I think in the case of Mafia, like Mafia admitted to it, so like I think that's like kind of beyond redemption. There are certain cases where I've been getting reports, like I'm not going to reveal names, where like I'm like, holy crap, this person said this guy sexual assaulted this other person. I'm like, okay, I'll take a look at it. I read the report and there's nothing of sexual assault in that nature. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, oh, like, so I think like the couple things that like I put caveats to is like, I think it needs to go through some sort of process to like validate it. Mm-hmm. But I think if they are, in the case of Mafia, I think it's like, oh crap, you like literally admitted to it.
Yeah.
I think the other thought I did have in regards to this was, no, you're right. I can't really think of anything else here.
Yeah.
there's another thing I kind of want to bring up, and I believe this is a topic in the last like 2 weeks, but sort of the I get this feeling, and Tafo, I know I've talked to you about this before, but like the growing visibility that like cultural shift that's grown to like or the growing visibility of abuse and misconduct within the Smash community as well. Like it's a problem that affects every industry, every vertical. Like, there's so many different like cultural niches, spaces. And it's just kind of it's very. I shouldn't be surprised by it, but it's still like very weird to me that we're kind of in this like post honeymoon period for the community, like since 2016, and like it feels kind of like that weird like thing. Like we were kind of in this bubble of how like the Smash, or maybe like as an average community member, maybe for you it was different. You were a community leader for much longer, but like as an average community member, you're hearing about these things that happened during like the honeymoon period of Melee or of Smash. And like there's greater attention brought to it, and it sort of feels like that's been happening over the last 2 years, and it's obviously like a good thing that there's more attention given to it, and that people are speaking out on issues that like hurt them and really matter. But I don't know, like the thing is, when we talk about Nightmare and specifically, like, you know, like the conversation doesn't end at him. There's other people in the Smash scene, I'm sure, with their own tapes and their own dirt, and that people haven't come out with stories against them. And just seeing how our community deals with moving forward, like finding what went right and what went wrong, it's like really important. And it's important to give voice to people that didn't always have it, like for the last however many years, you know?
Yeah.
I think what's different for me is like, I think like, I know we had this discussion before, Edwin, where like, oh, my camera died, so I'm gonna have to get another battery. But back in like 2000, like even 2014, we were seeing like growth. Like 2009, like everybody at a local knew each other. You literally had 20 people, and you were playing HBK like losers round one.
Yeah.
Like, and like, so if you add a person to a 20-man tournament, that's 20 new relationships that can potentially happen if you like do the handshake roll. Like now at this point, like everywhere, like it's growing exponentially, and you have just like, I think there is like a little bit of like people are coming out. I'm not saying like back then there were like it was perfect, and like there's probably assault cases that probably happened in 09 and 08, but just the sheer number of interactions and possible like interhuman conflicts like was way smaller, just because we just had a smaller pool of player. I think a large part of it is also the fact that we just have so many people, and like there is going to be a small percentage of dirtbags that do like sexually assault, and within that subset there are a small percentage of people willing to come out with it. I think largely there is a little bit of like openness to talk about these things, but I think it's just because of sheer numbers that we see a lot more of these events happening and a lot more of these events coming out.
Yeah. Chroma, do you have any thoughts?
There's some discussion going on in the chat. I think Tio faced a lot of pressure, both from his community and from the legal side of things. I think in past situations too, there have been other Canadian players who have been involved in similar forms of misconduct. And just kind of the people in Ontario that aren't okay with this have a place to play Melee. You know?
Yeah.
Because it seems kind of monolithic what's coming out of there.
I'll also say this, like, I think not every TO does necessarily act in the goodwill of people, but like when people ask why doesn't TO just do XYZ, like chances are there are reasons for it. Like if TO Joe could immediately ban Nightmare, he probably would have. In fact, I think he did. Like there's also a lot more than meets the eye in terms of these situations where like you kind of wonder why X tournament doesn't ban X player. Sometimes it's negligence and sometimes they're just stupid, but there are other things at play that just don't make it easy to say like, hey, let's just ban this player. We as individuals have no liability. I mean, I'll talk about this is kind of like one of the things that came up in the CFC, but like I'll bring it out in the open. Like me as an individual, like if I ran a tournament, like I don't have much money in my name. So like if I were to ever get into legal drama, like no one can sue me. Like I don't really care. You can sue me, like sue me for whatever. if you're an LLC or you have money in a company and like people want to take you out and sue you, then they're like, oh, yeah, let's just sue them for all the money. So like working corporate and working like Nintendo kind of sucks. But like on the flip side of things, they had to play everything really safe. And me as a TO for like Yahoo Esports, like there were so many things we couldn't do just because if something were to happen in a lawsuit, they're like, oh yeah, Yahoo has a ton of money. Let's just sue them for $1 million. Like, and those are kind of the barriers that they had to go through, even for like frivolous lawsuits, which is like unfortunate. That's like, I'm kind of rambling here, but like frivolous lawsuits ruin everything, in my opinion.
I want to like, I'm trying to find a way to like position this like tastefully. Just sort of, I know a lot of people like I know it's hard to see like a community like hate on your friend, and I know it's hard in terms of a mistake, and like I am like in that, I don't know how I would react to.
I have to admit, I was very, very disappointed. This is like completely tangential. I'm just like thinking about this because I'm also looking at chat right now. I'm very disappointed that somebody in the women and non-binary smashers group would leak posts that were made by someone's victim, perhaps. I think that is a very cruel thing to just completely trample all over a safe space like that. And it makes me feel a lot more unsure about whether or not I want to contribute to that community going forward, even though it's been a really positive space for me in the past. And it really disappoints me that somebody would do that.
Yeah, I mean, like, we're talking about in the context of Nightmare, we're talking about the act and him dating a minor. So like the like really disingenuous acts of like whataboutism surrounding like what happened after that is just, in my mind at least, like the dating a minor and sexual interference part are what are relevant in terms of like what we can ban someone for, like what the victim does like afterwards or what either party does like later. That's not relevant to the specific like thing that we are saying that we should ban them for. I just think it's I don't think it's a very like I don't think that's a solid foundation if you're going to argue that your friend shouldn't be let, or that your friend should be let back in the tournament.
For talking about sex crimes and kind of advocating for them, which is the whole thing. It's possibly because he made a threat against Lunar Dusk, and that was taken seriously, and I think he was suspended. I don't know if he necessarily should have been banned for that. I also don't think, outside of the kind of thoughtless things that Trulliam was saying on the stream, I don't think of him as necessarily evil or a bad guy for it. I think the video violated privacy laws, but otherwise, and it made some pretty nasty insinuations. But
Yeah.
besides that, I don't think he's evil or should be banned.
I'm actually kind of disappointed that the video got
yeah,
like,
if the video were still up, I mean, that's so much easier for everyone to see.
Like I would have not only been able to catch up on the exact like terms of the conversation that he and I were having, I would have seen what was said beforehand. And I mean, at the same time, there's part of me that's a little worried. I don't know what he's saying about me and my friends. I'm probably not going to like it.
I think it was a gross stream. Yeah.
Yeah, I would like to see what was said before me, and I would like to revisit our conversation, see what was said, just so, because I remember, because when the clip of him came out talking about sexual interference, there's the implication that, oh, like these people are putting out of context. I can tell you, as someone that was having a pretty civil discussion with him on the stream, that's not out of context. I was asking him, in my memory, I was asking him about if he was convicted of a sexual offense, and I was asking why he stood by Nightmare. He said
the argument that I hear a lot, and that I think Nightmare has said in public spaces and private spaces, is that she lied about something. And personally, I'm not sure if I believe that, but more importantly, I don't think I would see a situation where I'd care. She was 15, he was 23.
Yeah. So I think
he was convicted, and that's all the information I really need.
I mean, it kind of goes back to the lawyerism of like he didn't quite commit X, but we're not going to confirm that he did Y.
It's legalese.
Yeah, but that's kind of why they view Nightmare as the victim in this situation. And I don't really see how you can twist yourself into that mentally, but I get how it happens.
Yeah, I do have to rant a little bit and say, like, I like to call a spade a spade. He did sexual interference. He had sex with a minor. Like, I think we all agree on that. I think when you add in extra accusations that may not be true, it hurts everybody.
I think that's true.
Like,
no, in terms of like the social perception, how people see the case. Yeah, I mean that's like look at the people defending him in chat and standing up for their guy. Like
there are some people in chat I know who have said other things to people who have dissented against this that I'm not going to bring up right now.
Yeah,
but this is a constant pattern. Yeah.
I mean, this is like the Trumpism, right?
It's whataboutery.
You blame something that's like totally irrelevant and say these aren't true, and then the actual discussion on what is true like never happens because people are derailed by like arguing semantics of the thing that was mentioned by some person that was not true. And that's something I get incredibly frustrated by, like especially around this. Like, so anyway, that's just like kind of my like ramble.
I am looking forward to the many messages we will all continue to receive on this.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to Ontario. If I
continuing to put on the six god tag in front of you in tournament. Yeah, that's gonna be fun. How do you do in that set? It's actually I don't care. I don't care how you did in that set. I don't think
literally not.
I don't think winning or losing makes it better. It's fun to beat the bad people, but you don't. There are some very good players who do not good things. So there are some very bad players who do some okay things, and there's mixes of both.
Like that was one point I saw. At one point I saw like the idea that like if women stopped complaining.
Women stopped complaining about stuff that didn't matter, then maybe they would be top 100.
And it's fun to know like his results and shit on him for him.
Yeah. Oh my god.
But what if you were a top 100 player? Does that make it better? No,
it doesn't matter. Like it's not relevant.
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah, because settling things in a party game is not how we settle moral arguments.
That's some goddamn summer camp movie where you beat the rich kids from across the lake and you won because you were right. You know?
Yeah, because their fancy wavebirds can't compete with the wired and controllers.
Damn. Let's go, Nikki.
Thanks.
Yeah. Because it means that we money match, and if they win, he didn't do it. You know?
Yeah.
It's just a ridiculous term. It also like I remember like seeing the screen cap of that, and like it didn't really have much to do with the substance of what you were saying or anything. That like again, it was just like a deflection on a completely like different topic. It's not an honest like point to bring up.
You know, I just realized something. I realize that everything makes sense in terms of why the community is terrible at Mafia the game.
Oh, this is gonna be
this is gonna be a terrible joke. I know it. You're setting up like you're building together. You're pulling together some wooden blocks right now, and you're trying to assemble them into a tower.
You know, let's hear him out.
And I'm a little toddler, and I'm stumbling towards you, and I'm gonna knock it all down. That's right.
No, it's because. Like, if you look at how we argue on Mafia, at least Summit, it's like, dude, I'm Mango's friend. Like, I would not vote him. Like, people bring in irrelevant stuff to, like, derail conversation that you never find out who the actual Mafia is because people are so damn distracted by, like, stupid things that don't matter.
It's so wild to me also that, like, Smashers fetishize objectivity. I've talked about this a lot with a lot of my friends. Just, like, the fact that a lot of people in Smash are like, yeah, like I'm a really good like debater and like I don't really like myself in my emotions. I'm just really logical, you know. I think with my brain.
I'm all about rational discourse, Nikki.
Dude, I love a rational discourse.
I don't see race.
Dude, Chroma, you're so brave. Thank you for sharing.
That was a brave thing for me. I want to say how low the bar is to be considered an SJW in the Melee community. You come out with some hot takes like
kidding!
women should maybe get to play Melee without getting assaulted, or maybe we don't have sex offenders in the scene. And like all of a sudden, you're like as far left as you can humanly be.
I know, it's so crazy.
Like talking about this. This is a Melee stats like podcast. We like playing the game, and we like like fantasizing about whether AbsentPage or Zamu is gonna improve on the Miam rank in like the next year. It's just it gets so blatant that you can't not say anything.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, we don't. I think there's another thing or another sentiment I've seen that like, oh, like you're trying to ruin this guy's career. You're trying to you're taking joy. It's like I'm not taking joy.
I don't think anybody's taking joy except for the joy that like maybe it's making the community better. A lot of people like Nightmare. Mewtwo Queen, that was her favorite player.
Yeah, that's true. Yep. No, they were good pals.
That's documented. I mean, I played him, and like it was. Yeah, I got destroyed. It was a fine set.
Yeah, I talked to him at the cave, and I was like, "This guy is. I have no opinion on him whatsoever. Completely neutral."
Yeah. Like
I thought the hyenas were going to be annoying. They weren't annoying. It was just it was background stuff.
Like you're saying, we want to talk about Melee. We want to thing we got to call it what it is. We can't just pretend it's not there or make excuses for it, and I feel like there's always this like perception of like if you take a stand, if you call someone out on something, or if you like say to someone that something is not cool and that there should be consequences for actions, it's almost as if you're portrayed as like a harpy getting extremely like angry and super emotional.
Here comes the Smash drama again.
You're a killjoy. It's just like we're having a good time. Why do you have to ruin it?
Because you're popping the bubble.
Yeah.
That is secretly dirty as shit, and nobody wants to acknowledge it as long as possible.
Yeah, the bubble of chemicals and buildup. No, I've been reading a lot of Sarah Ahmed lately. She's like this feminist theorist, and she's been talking about this idea of like the feminist killjoy. And honestly, like that's who I want to be going into 2019, dude. I just want to ruin people's days. Just expose all their boys. That's where I'm at,
All right.
Commentary is Keynesian make work. Cloud is stupid. Might as well do something useful with it.
All right. Yeah. I think we pretty much said everything that has to be said. Like, are there any closing thoughts? Like, sort of hashed everything out.
Well, I mean, I think the positives are like things are being worked on, and like kind of the things that are in place that like don't make it as easy as people would assume to ban a player. Like, there are steps in motion to try to make that happen, and hopefully it goes through. I've had like many conversations with the lawyers here from Madison Square Garden who like manage the Knicks, and like I've learned a lot, and like some of the difficulties that go through with these kind of things that make it unfortunate for us.
All right.
Who keeps typing? Chroma, mute.
All right, I think
Chroma's on the stick. He's on the stick.
That's me.
Nothing wrong with that.
All right, as a
someone just said shoplifting and this were the same thing. So
yeah.
All right. Well.
Yeah. Do you know if you steal a single lipstick, it's the same as molesting a child? It's all the same.
Okay. I'm gonna, in the worst transition of all time, I think we should take a break from this topic right now, because I feel like we've talked enough about it. We can move into something a little more fun to get us, like we've said everything we need to say. We we talked about a lot of serious things. Yeah. So how about the speed round now? And I think that'll be close to the end of the show. We're still typing.
Speed round.
No.
Sorry.
Okay, so basically rules of the speed round. I ask questions, the panel answers in a minute, and then I move to the next one. I don't think anyone here has won a speed round. Have they?
How do you
we didn't
win?
do speed round the last.
You get points. You get points at the end of each question. If you had listened to an episode or watched one, you would know this.
How do okay?
Just by giving good answers.
All right. Edwin Budding.
Okay, so question number 1. Who do you think scares Zain more, Wizzy or S2J?
Easy answer. Zain doesn't think Wizzy's that good. Easily S2J.
I should have the insider info on this one, but unfortunately I don't.
I don't know why it's Johnny, because Johnny historically does not like the Marth.
It's Johnny because he's played Johnny less, maybe?
Yeah, sorry to interrupt there.
Okay.
I just remember like
You know why? I'll tell you why from a gameplay standpoint. So Wizzy plays at a pace that Zain is very familiar with. Zain can stand in a corner, Wizzy will stand in a corner, Zain eventually finds something or Wizzy finds something. When Johnny and Zain are skirmishing, Johnny actually does something that Wizzy never does in his life, and that's overshoot. And so when Zain decides to dash away, go to his little corner, Johnny's already there with an air stop, and Zane's already in a shield, and then he gets fucked up. Like I think it's a huge playstyle counter. And if Zain wants to play the let's run away and stand in a corner and then let's go in the middle and then run away to the corner, Johnny's already in his face with like overshoots, which is something that Wizzy, for whatever reason, never does in the matchup.
Okay, no, all right, that Tafo wins that round. Okay, who is the scarier hidden boss of SoCal, Fiction or Santiago?
Are we talking based on Twitter or
betray.
actual player?
Don't
Interpret
make
it
me
however,
choose.
interpret it however way you want.
I'm gonna betray my roots here. I'm gonna say Fiction, and the reason is because Fiction will travel to more, and he's hungrier, and we'll see him more, and he's kind of like a more present threat. Whereas Santi, I mean, Santi is very scary, but the odds of running into Santi are just much lower.
Yeah, I completely agree with Chroma for the travel reason. That was going to be my biggest argument.
BDSM club. That's my reason.
BDSM club. Yeah, I mean, Fiction's powers are up here. Though Santi had one of my favorite tweets of all time, which was, "Hey guys, I'm about to fight someone in the ocean. Do you think I got it?" And a lot of his friends said yes, but I knew the answer was no because he was fighting someone who asked to fight him in the ocean. Sure enough, Santi almost drowned. Great.
All right, Chroma, you got that one. Who is the all right? Third question: who is the best Falco on the East Coast?
The best? Silly Willy? I don't know. I mean, I'm going to be biased, whoever I say is the problem. I'm going to be talking about like MDVA Falcos. That's what I have the most experience with. It's not Bobby Big Balls. Is it who?
Is
Momo.
Bobby Big?
You can say it.
Is it
It's
King Momo? Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Is Bobby Big Balls Midwest or?
No, he's MDVA. He used to be
Okay.
Texas, and then he moved.
Okay.
Yeah, he moved here
Got it.
to plague us with his Selena Gomez combo videos.
If Florida doesn't count as East Coast,
Does
do
Florida
we
count?
do we get to say like Lint God? Do we get to say Big Foig? Do we get to say?
Oh, wait, I
Texas
forgot
Falcon?
about New England. That's very sad. Yeah, Lent, I guess.
All right, Linton is Nikki's answer. What's your answer, Chroma?
I don't know if Florida counts. Does Florida count?
Yeah, it counts.
I gotta go Momo over Shiz and over everyone else there
And
right
Tafo?
now. I'm gonna go Momo.
She said
I would-
Momo.
I was gonna say Momo, but Momo lost to
sorry.
Allen at Big House last year, so
Wait, it's not Lent, it's Thorn. Isn't
I mean, you know,
Isn't
Lint's
Thorn
got some
higher ranked
else.
than Lit on the
No.
latest New England PR?
Okay, we spent enough time talking about this. You mentioned Lint first, Nikki. So, or no, Chroma mentioned Lint first. So
Ah,
I think Chroma gets it.
wait. What if I said Drug Fox?
No, that doesn't.
He
That
doesn't
You
count.
said
count.
Drug Fox ahead of
Yes.
PP. I just want to say you said Drug Fox ahead of PP. That's insulting.
Why is that insulting? The last time I saw PP was at Five Gods, and I'm pretty sure he didn't play at a top 15 level for that tournament.
Leave PP alone. All right, fourth question. S2J versus Axe. Who's better right now?
I'm gonna have to reward. I'm gonna have to award activity. Like that's always been my
Yeah.
philosophy.
Yep.
S2J.
I agree.
Okay, the field. I'm like trying to think about how the field does for sacks right now. Like if there are a lot of spacies, in that little tier that I think that is
Okay.
very important.
I mean, I think
Ask me this
like
question after Big House.
I mean, Zain. I wouldn't be surprised if Axe is better than S2J at Big House, but like if we're gonna say like right now, like we haven't seen much of Axe, and like I have to give credit to the player that plays. Like, with that being said, like would Axe beat Lucky? Probably. Would Axe beat PewPewU? Probably. Would Axe beat Zain? Probably. Like, there's a long. Would Axe beat Wizro? Probably. Like, there are a lot of good matchups that Axe has in like the 7 through 20. Like, I would say Axe beats Mango more likely than Johnny beats Mango. Like, I feel like Axe has a slightly better shot against Beauty King than Johnny right now. So, like, I don't know.
Nikki, any closing words?
Me?
Yeah.
Ask me this question after Big House. That's all I've said.
That's not fair.
All right. I'll give it to Tafo. And for the last question, if BTS runs a roast style event again, who is it for in 2019?
Scar.
Oh, okay, I actually want to think about this one. Who's the person who's like most? Because here's the thing: is I'm thinking like, who's the person who like the roast will have the most material to go off of. But I know that's going to be inherently biased in terms of people in the scene that I'm very familiar with. Most. But I feel like it can't revolve around that same Norwalk crowd anymore. It can't be anybody from that circle. I want it to be East Coast so bad, so that I'm
Alright,
like,
if anyone
like
Just make it Matt.Zeb.
Roast of Fendy? I don't know. Like if
Roast of
someone said
Fendy,
Roast of
Roast of
Scar,
Matt
that's what I thought.
Chroma, what's your answer?
I can't tell if Blur will kill us all in 5 minutes or not.
Ooh.
I wanted Moon because he's hilarious, but that's not.
Roast of
So there's
Fendy
only
so
so many
good.
jokes you can make.
That
There's
was
only
just
so
good.
many jokes you can make about Moon, and they're mostly related to his Facebook posts.
All right, I'm gonna have to go. Chroma, you got this. Chroma, congratulations! You've won the melee stats speed round, winning 3 points. Everyone. Now, in typical melee stats format, the winner of the speed round gets a minute or so to talk about whatever they want. So take it away, Chroma.
Huh. I've already done a lot of ranting. This is very tempting. Oh. I don't know. Melee's in an interesting spot. I really hope the COC gets things right. If they get things wrong once, that's pretty much it. Watch my podcast where I destroy Jackzilla on many, many situations and NSFW pictures involving Spore. Jack is no match for my ability to outmaneuver his arguments. And that's why we gave him a gavel. That's all I got.
Jake, were you on a debate team in high school?
Absolutely not.
Great. Okay, awesome. Me neither. Just making sure we're blood brothers. That's all.
That's right.
That's right.
And yeah.
All right. We've kind of been going on for a while, so I don't think, unless there's any questions in the chat that particularly come up in the next like 2 minutes or so, I think this is a pretty bittersweet ending for the show. Unless there's anything else you guys notice.
I'm just tired.
Yeah. I'm
I'm
so
just
sorry my
tired.
internet sucked, guys.
Yeah, I want to go to nationals again. I want to go to big majors and to just be with my boys and play some melee and just not really have to worry about my safety. That's really where I'm at, and not have to have any arguments and just play some friendlies. That's where I'm
You're
at.
down to play some melee, watch some melee, talk about some melee.
Yeah.
Scene's been weird.
Yeah, and I'm
weird.
And the thing is, I know that people love to say, like, like, oh, like, I don't care about all this drama. I just want to, like, play some melee. And then they spend, like, 2 hours online arguing about, like, the legality of Arduinos. And, that's, like, really cool. But that is actually the mindset that I'm in of just, like, no, I do just want to play some melee. And I want to never have to worry about my safety or the safety of others ever again. So, would be cool if I lived in that world, but I don't know if I do.
All right. There's like a couple questions. Question for Edwin: how do you pull ideas from ESPN for these shows? I grew up wanting to be a sports writer and ended up writing about a children's party game as a hobby. That's how it happens.
That's how we do it.
Do shiny tautology? Do people honestly think that lint is better than shiz?
That's a good question.
I don't think that's like, maybe I'm biased because lint is from Connecticut, but like I don't think that's like by the eye test. I don't see why you don't think why like it would be so ridiculous. Like shiz has obviously like the more of a history in the scene. He has really big wins like IBDW and KJH. But I actually kind of like Lint's.
Shabo.
I kind of like Lint's matchup spread a lot. The only matchups I think he like really like might struggle in relative to his other ones are like Ices and Puff. And I think locally against Thumbs in Connecticut, he's struggled a lot, and he still like loses to a couple of other people every now and then. But he's still
Thumbs
like
guy's ridiculous.
Yeah, and Thumbs is like he's like a really sleeper player that if he went out to more, he'd be super good. Shiz.
Look, I want Shiz to be really, really good again. I really liked his videos, but I think net play makes him worse because it's net play.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The hottest take of 2018 is that net play just isn't fun anymore. That's where I'm at.
Items on net play is amazing.
I don't know. Ambi and I had some fire Bowser Donkey Kong games on Fourside. It was like event. It's like that event mode or whatever. I forget what it was.
I'm gonna have to put a caveat to that. I think Tinder net play isn't really fun. I think having the regular group of homies, net play is great.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no. If you have people you can get on that that V0. No, I can't spell it loud. That VOIP, VOIP. I never know how to pronounce that. How to like say that out loud. You have homies you can get in the VOIP with. Then you've made it.
Yeah.
But I realize no one else calls it VOIP. Bummer.
I have to play on a Smurf on net play because like people like the dynamics get super weird and I hate it. So I play on a Smurf if I ever play Tinder Melee.
Mm-hmm.
I have I just go on as Chroma 09 and nobody believes it's me because I'm either much better than I should be or much worse than I should be. And they're like 80 chromas. It's perfect.
Yeah, I like to think of it as Bumble Melee because I go on and people ask me if I consider myself a feminist, and I'm like, okay, interesting.
You guys just wait until Fish with it releases his Great Bay DK. I don't see really any other big questions. Who are the hidden bosses? Solar ask who are the hidden bosses of Oregon. I don't know if he counts as a hidden boss, but Aura is pretty good, right? That's the Peach player from Oregon.
He does well.
Yeah, I don't know if he's a hidden boss, but
Oregon's got some good players.
Pretty good. Oregon's got Dr. Z, right? It's got Sheridan.
It's got a lot of people. But yeah, I'm also like the spoiled kid when it comes to net play because I have a lot of players that are very close to me that are better than me, and worse than me. There's a whole thing. So like, my life is really easy as far as that goes, and like finding practice, even when I'm as busy as I am. So, I think I'm really biased on that one.
I just rarely ever have a good connection when I play with people, and then I just get really mad.
I had a good connection with this guy from like Idaho, Newt. He was really sick.
I've always wanted to travel to the Idaho Melee scene. I saw like a video of like some like combo video from Idaho Melee, from like an Idaho Melee battle, I think, back in like I think pre-2010, and I have always wanted to travel to that scene, meet the good people in Boise or something.
Yeah, it blew my mind that like we had a good connection, and then I was like, the internet is so sick, and then everything started to go bad. Yeah.
I'm sorry.
Ambi wants to know which ones of us are going to Big House. Algebra wants to know when he's going to a local.
Ambi, we have T-Dude.
What do you guys think about Amsa getting invited to Summit? So sick.
great. Yeah, I love AMSA. I love AMSA, and I. Oh,
I
you're
love that
saying?
they did. Sorry, I love that they did as many invites as they did. Go ahead. I'm so sorry.
Yes, I know that's a good point. I love that. I hear a lot of people complain about Yoshi being like stupid and like, oh, what a dumb character, and it parries in the air, and that they hate it. It's cheesy to play against, whatever. I hate the complaining. I think it's so cool that AMSA is pushing the meta of his character. I think it's great that he beat HBox last summer.
Oh boy!
I want to see more of that as a spectator, as a selfish spectator. I want to see more of that.
I want to see more of it, but in like a really twisted way. Like if he beets HBox, I want
him to only ledge camp for 8 minutes.
like ledge camp, do 8 minutes, play as campy. Like there's a sick twisted like future I see, which he just goes like full camp. It's kind of like how I would root for Jerry, you know, like not because I necessarily would ever play like that or take that approach to melee, but because I want to see like the extreme dark side like brought to its point. Like AMSA, just like this extremely like sweet, hardworking like player, just fully embracing the evil.
You know, I would lose my faith in humanity completely if like AMSA, like I found out AMSA ever did something.
I wouldn't be. I don't know. I think all people are people. I guess I get what you're saying. though. That would suck.
Yeah, dude.
It
But
would.
if it happens, it happens.
Like, don't take away that from me. Like,
all right.
Yeah.
Who does everybody think will win the summit spots, and who will get voted in? I know it's a little early. Let's just hear pipe dreams. Who would you just love to see?
Jerry's my pick.
You want Jerry's spot, don't you?
Yeah, Jerry.
You madman.
I want Jerry to rest SFAT like 7 times again in a
It
set.
already happened. Yeah.
Or maybe can he turn that 7 into 11 times?
Oh god.
I think as much as we kind of detest the region right now, just with what's kind of going on circumstantially with Moki, like I would like to see him get a chance.
I was gonna say, yeah, his life seems really kind of tough right now, and he's super.
It would be a good just like for him, like outside of everything else, he's been working really hard in melee. He kind of had a rough Evo, and I know he's been dealing with a lot of personal stuff also. But like if there is a player that's been on the grind, like especially this year and getting a lot better, like Moki would deserve a he would benefit a lot from a summit spot. I think he took Shroom to really close at Shine, and he like honestly he should have had that set.
Yeah, I think Fiction wins the spot straight out.
I think it would be really funny if everybody who by all means should be contesting one another for spots at Summit just went to DreamHack Atlanta instead and had the wackiest top 8 brackets of all time. I think that would just be really funny, and like, I mean, not that would ever happen, but like, I mean, if it did, like, that would be pretty cool.
I also think for Summit invites, Gatsu would be a really good pick, because Gatsu's kind of been in that like weird caliber of players that always get seated. They're seated high enough to where they're respected, but not high enough, but like low enough to where they're matched up against like a really good player round 1 of the major. And like Gatsu Summer has been really impressive. And if you take a look at like his consistency, it actually kind of, in a year where a lot of the mid-level of, not mid, but like upper mid-level of top melee has been like, I thought that's a weird way to describe it, but it has been so like high variance. Like Gatsu actually shines through as a pretty like significantly rising player after the summer. So I would be interested to see how much better he gets, because he's like, for the longest time, I saw Gatsu as like that Falcon player that has like a B+ in every category. But like, I'm not like, we're sort of waiting for him to like overcome that barrier. And I wonder how he'd do it. Darktooth, I also kind of view like that, but a little probably on a lower perceived skill level.
I have a wacky theory, and then I'll give it back over. We started to see some situations where some of the people that have been to Summit before or have been involved in very lengthy Summit campaigns that drained a lot money and energy-wise said, I'm going to go for like this round, and if I don't make it, that's it. Or I'm going to go for the qualifier, and if I don't win it, that's it. I think there's a possibility that a lot of the Summit eligible players that are in that like top 10, 20 zone and have been through this a bunch of times and would rather support in a more stable way, I think they do that, and I think it opens up the field.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because they don't want to go through. They've been through that exhausting process. Yeah,
we say that every time, but
But this time with the 2 qualifiers.
I mean, but like last year we had 2 qualifiers too.
Yeah. But I felt like more people like Reeve ended up staying in it, right?
Yeah.
You know. It's hard to say. I think dominant strategy is win in the first round or go home.
I wonder who's gonna
Everybody
get.
knows that now.
I wonder who's gonna get the gifted. I call this the Dwan Shroomed Award, where everybody in your side of the bracket loses, so you get a significantly easier one for a free pass to Summit.
Mm-hmm. Who's gonna buy themselves the Summit spots?
Ringler.
Shout out to Ringler.
Yeah,
I mean, out of the top players.
Oh.
Who's gonna like that?
Wes has been on that like big grind, right? Like he really wants to.
Oh wait a minute, Wes is actually I think a very.
Yeah, he had his comeback story for I'm gonna get better and that kind of thing for last Summit.
Oh, that's right. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
That's true.
Hey, he hasn't gone
Optics.
first.
Oh,
yeah. Melee's hard, man.
Well, I'm trying to think like who would I want to see in skits?
Oh, well, that's a great question.
Like, well, I always think Wes is phenomenal at acting.
Les has got some good sketches. It's clear Norwalk is a complete wild card. Mango is possibly one of the worst actors I've ever seen, but it's
who
still
does Mini
adorable.
Timmy give $1,000 to? Does he give it to Choudat again?
Maybe it's true for Summit this time, just out of nowhere.
Does Michael get into Summit this time?
Does Army
Where's
get
the-
into Summit this time?
How many rap? Over under 2.5 raps made for campaigning.
Why does it have to be rap? They
I don't
should
want
go
to
into
call
other
them
genres.
raps, the things that I've heard.
Yeah, they can go and like make like do an opera or something like. Okay, maybe not opera, but just it's not rap.
Do a 2-hour length opera if you want to get into Summit. That's the real question.
I'm just saying the rap format is overdone.
I would agree. I think it's mostly. Yeah.
You know, I think it would be interesting to see people like Junebug and Fiction at Summit also. I think those two are like people that we don't see that much of on the national scale, but are like heavy talented players. I don't know who Tri-State. I don't know who Tri-State will rally around. I could imagine it being like Rishi or.
Is
I feel like-
Swedish invited or no?
No.
I think I don't know if Rishi. I don't know if Rishi is doing it, but I know. But like considering he's #1 in Tri-State or NYC.
I always have this like notion, like this underlying unfounded opinion that like Tri-State and New York like self-loads itself. Like they don't like their top players. There's a lot of disconnect, and I feel like they can't campaign openly to combine forces to bring one person to Summit.
It's true. It's always the struggle.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe Swedish, like the Armada win gets everyone to.
I think Swedish just gets the spot again.
Yeah, I think Swedish is definitely. Yeah.
So how much money does Mango make the whole like week going into Summit?
Oh, wow.
How much did he make? I don't have a frame of reference for
Well,
this.
because he's running the Mango, he probably gets a cut of the Mango. He's running
Does get a
6.5.
cut of the mango.
Like I feel like Mango's created an economy structure around himself that he doesn't have to do anything at the Summit, but he probably makes as much as like 3rd place.
I think he pulls 20K, 25K.
Jeez.
That's a totally baseless number, and I think it could be more. Does
I'm-
Who does Mango Nation support this time?
Nation support. Oof.
I know we should probably wrap.
I'm gonna say Fiction somehow gets the Fiction. I'm gonna say Mango somehow will his friend like SJ maybe if SJ doesn't already get in off the qualifier, he'll get annoyed or whatever with one of his friends and rally behind Fiction.
No, he doesn't. Definitely not rally.
Oh,
behind
does he
Fiction.
or does he not like Fiction? Okay,
I think they
I'll
started
take your
to
word
net
for it.
play, but like he feels that Fiction's the guy that's gonna ultra try hard against him in net play, and like Fiction's gonna
That's
feel so
correct.
good about himself, and Mango's just like whatever, man.
Okay,
That is
never
correct.
mind then. I take that. Will Mango rally behind Army?
He was supposed to last time, and he betrayed Nez, Mod God, and and all the regents there, and there's still some bad blood.
Yeah.
That was rough.
Mega lives behind Axe. I don't know.
When last question for me. When are we banning wobbling? When's
When
that
are
happening?
we banning
All
wobbling?
right, thank you for tuning
I'll
in
say
to
it.
episode 24 of the Melee Stats podcast.
All the
Tafo,
regents are
thanks.
doing it.
Tafo, thanks for stopping by.
All right, I'm leaving. I'm leaving this conversation.
Thank you,
I
Tafo.
also want to thank our patrons who are, hold on, I actually had them written on a notepad so I wouldn't stumble through them.
All right, I'm leaving this conversation.
Thank you to Stock, Daxilla, Gerg, Singstall, Sika, The Great Rundus, Revenants, and a new patron, Brett Rankin. Thanks, guys, a lot. Brett, if you're listening to this episode, I still haven't heard back from you. It's because I need to give you the invite to the patron channel of our podcast Discord. So thank you guys a lot for your support. Thanks for tuning in. I know I'm sick of talking about like serious things and not fanboying or talking about making Zamu fan fiction, but like someone's got to do it. And
Sam is so good at tech chasing.
Oh,
He's good
Zamu.
at
I love that
You tech
kid.
chased me so many times.
yeah. So
No,
thanks
like-
guys for tuning in. Have a good night.